Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good morning to you. It is Saturday, the 30th of May, and this is Charlie Rowley sitting in for the most glamorous, the most beautiful, the most glitzy Talk TV presenter. No, I'm not talking about Kevin O'Sullivan. Not Kev. It is, of course, Alex Phillips is having a well-deserved weekend off, and you've got me for the next 3 hours, taking you through all the news and views right across the country. We'll start with the front pages just in a second. But joining me throughout for the next 3 hours, the wonderful Peter Barnes. Peter, hello.
Hello, Charlie. How are you doing?
I'm very well. This is a regular slot for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, Alex is something to keep an eye on things. You know.
The spies are out. The spies are out in force.
I think, again, not really James Bond. I'm wearing bright pink trousers, so you can definitely see me.
The name's Barnes. Peter Barnes. There we go. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Peter.
No, not a problem.
Look forward to your company throughout. We've got a lot to get through this morning. We've got three massive stories that people are talking about, which we'll come to in just a second. But first, I'll take you through all the front pages of this Saturday morning. We'll start with the Times. Poor sleep tied to rise in women's cancer cases. Young women who suffer from insomnia are up to 3 times more likely to develop some types of cancer, studies suggested. We're always hearing about cancer, and you know, great work goes on to fund cancer research. I know my good friend, who I'm giving a shout out very early on, ran the London Marathon, raised a lot of money for cancer research. We just hope that there can be a cure at some stage.
True. It was a little disappointing to hear that the prostate screening decision. I have to admit, that was a bit disappointing the other day. I know that's got a lot of people very angry as well, because obviously the PSC tests and all the rest of it aren't the best when it comes to screening for prostate cancer, but yet we seem to have very good ones, very rightly so, for breast cancer or cervical cancer. I think, you know, we're getting all these studies. Hopefully we can get some good news from this, hopefully, but yes.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, the prostate one, I don't understand why we haven't gone for full testing for
so I was very lucky. I was on with a doctor the other day, and apparently she was saying it's because the actual tests are kind of, they bring up more false positives.
But I don't think they do. I'm sorry to your good friend doctor, but you know, I surrounded myself with doctors during my time in government during COVID.
Well, yes,
so I've had my fair share of doctors' advice.
Yeah, probably more than you would like.
Absolutely. And whilst I think patients are perfectly able to make up their own mind, and they can make the decision themselves. What it does is, I think, when you have a screening, you carry particular cells that may show signs of cancer. They're cancerous cells, but they are not cancer. But that, according to the doctors, might therefore lead people to wanting treatment that therefore will be more detrimental to them in the long term. I don't think that's true. I think people should just have the knowledge of what they're living with, what's in their body, but they can manage it appropriately. No one's going to then start saying, well, right, I need to undertake all of this treatment when I've got the most tiniest of cells. But people are entitled, I think, particularly men over a certain age, are entitled
my big thing was also, is it tough enough getting men to go to the doctor in the first place, let alone
exactly. And I think we should. I mean, absolutely. I would encourage you to go and see your doctor, obviously, if it's important. But women there, before we start talking about men,
I know,
it's quite a male-dominated show,
a little bit.
Soon, but poor sleep tied to rising women's cancer cases. So there we are. Front page of the Sun. Sterling, football player, Raheem Sterling, arrest after drug crash, ex-England footy ace.
Another bad news for the British sterling, isn't it?
Well, yes. It's
that's the only football-related joke you're going to get from me.
Something else going down. Has been arrested on suspicion of drug driving after crashing his Lamborghini. Drug driving, the next big scandal after drink driving, which is why, actually, there was all that chatter about trying to close our pubs early, I think, or bringing in a total ban on alcohol, so you can't drive even if you've had one drink, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Because not only will that choke off all of our pubs, an already struggling industry, and especially on days like today, you are entitled to go to the pub, have a pint, for goodness sake.
And we're miserable enough as a country.
Well, exactly. And if you're able to drive, as many people are, because it's about their body tolerance, it's not just about the levels of alcohol that they've had, then they are able to do so. And I'm thinking about rural pubs across this country.
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, there was a report I think it was just yesterday, actually, that rural pubs are suffering because of road surfaces. People don't want to drive because the road is so bad. So actually they're suffering. There's lots of different ways we can actually help pubs, yet we always just seem to want to make it more difficult for them, and I don't understand why we keep doing that, considering what was it Gladstone that said that every pub is a parliament?
Well, yes.
So, yeah. I mean,
quite right too. Here. That's the Sun. Daily Express. Fury as German police fail to watch Madeleine suspect. Police are failing to shadow the Madeleine McCann prime suspect, Christian Brechner, around the clock. Worried neighbours claim. I mean, we're going to be talking about the state of the police in this country now, justice system, but European police seem to be even worse. The Portuguese police couldn't even prosecute or actually investigate properly, I should say, the missing disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Now the German authorities fail to be able to monitor the prime suspect around the clock, which they should be doing.
It's terrible, really, isn't it? And in a way, it kind of makes me feel a little bit better that it's not just the United Kingdom that is suffering from bad police. It's not just, it's one of those kind of, we're all miserable and everybody's miserable. But I don't know. At some point, we really have to start kicking in on this Madeleine McCann situation, because I do feel sorry for lots of other families that are maybe not getting the right amount of resources and attention that this case has been given, considering the fact I remember it happening and I was a child when this happened. Yeah. So, yeah, I often wonder, and the debate comes up every single time this issue arises, is at what point does the police have to kind of pull back from this investigation?
Well, you're absolutely right, because it is a harrowing case. Madeleine McCann has been the face of missing children, and all of those tragic cases are harrowing cases for parents that take place. But there are children that go missing every day that don't get that attention, that don't get the media, as I say, support, I'd imagine, and that's harrowing for families that have still got missing kids.
Yeah, definitely. We don't do enough to protect children in this country, it seems, on every single turn.
Well, you're absolutely right. Well, but, I mean, that links onto some of our big stories of the day. So
it's almost like I read the run-through.
What run-through?
I have no idea.
They've given you a run-through.
For the first time I've ever doing this show on a Saturday, we're pretty close to sticking to it so far.
Not on my watch. It's all good fun on a Saturday morning. Here, sitting in for Alex Phillips. Hope you're well. The front page of the Daily Mirror, a threat to all of us. Tyrant Vladimir Putin is a threat to Europe's security, Keir Starmer said yesterday, after a stray Russian drone flew into a block of flats in Romania. Quite harrowing stuff there, as the war in Ukraine obviously is now expanding across the border into Romania, where the former Prime Minister and former President of Russia said that basically we should be expecting more of that. It's a war, and European allies have got to put up with the odd drone going awry.
Yes, just the odd one, left, right and centre. If I remember rightly, I think it was at the the president of Moldova or somewhere like that had to be rushed down into a bunker because of a drone attack that had gone awry from Russia that was heading towards Ukraine, but it got off track, and they had to put their entire kind of top command into one of these underground bunkers and everything. I mean, at what point do we actually have to lock into the Ukraine situation and realise that we've had a tyrant sitting on our doorstep that wandered through the front door, and we were all too busy, wearing a lanyard doing DEI to actually be ready for it? I think at some point, there's a lot of questions need to be asked about this situation.
Well, we're talking about repeatedly, it seems to me, about cutting welfare and spending on our own defence, being our defences are own. Seem to be depleted. It's this conversation that comes up time and time again. Can we give any more support to Ukraine? Not quite sure, especially when we've got the Strait of Hormuz in the Middle East that is affecting house prices, bills in this country. There are wars going on multiple fronts. What can the UK do about it?
Yeah, it's always the old rule, don't fight a war on two fronts. Yet we seem to be fighting two different wars on two different fronts. We seem to have just doubled down on the situation in a very British fashion. But yes, it is. I'm going to say the ministers met just this week to discuss about the next package of aid to Ukraine and what that is actually going to look like. Because I think it was Britain, France, Canada, the UK, and I want to say Spain and Italy actually all knocked back a 0.2%, 0.25% NATO commitment for aid to Ukraine. They knocked that back. I was like, okay, there's not just us that doesn't have any money for defence at the moment.
Yes.
So yeah, it is. What does I think the phrase is, what does tangible support actually look like? Is the agenda apparently?
Well, quite. I mean, maybe the Prime Minister can call just another meeting. Another group of the coalition, another coalition of the willing.
Yes.
Prime Minister. There you go.
Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, I'm lucky I do. No one else does, because we've never not seen, heard or sight of it since.
It's laughable, isn't it? It's the coalition of the not so willing. I'm afraid. Yeah.
Who are they? Where are they? Yes. In the words of Delia Smith, where are you?
Oh, wow.
Let's be having you.
Wow, that is a throwback, Charlie.
Anyway. I know. I'll finish off some of these front pages, then we'll go to our main topic. Breast cancer test to cut need for chemotherapy. My copter dash to save Shuey. A pilot who airlifted Formula 1 ace Michael Schumacher after his horror ski crash has spoken of the drama for the first time. That's in the Daily Star. Key reading, I'm sure. Front page of the Daily Telegraph. Trump Hormuz blockade will end. All oil prices fall and Wall Street rallies after agreement to extend ceasefire. We'll be talking to somebody, former White House official, all about what's happening in the US and how it's affecting us back in the UK. And the front page of the Daily Mail, an affront to justice. This is the topic of the day that we're going to be talking about, and I know we've had a bit of fun this morning, but this is the topic that really grinds my gears. There are so many stories out there at the minute about our criminal justice system, whether it's judges that are failing to send boys to prison who have clearly raped young girls using a knife, putting it on social media. We talked about that a lot last week. Now we've seen two men that have been involved in what is effectively a brawl in Manchester Airport, where last year one of those two individuals was convicted. For people that might remember the case of in Manchester Airport, two female police officers brutally assaulted during that attack, where they tried to intervene, and this poor police officer, she had a bloody nose. She was removed. She had to remove herself from actually detaining these two tyrants, it seems to me, before then coming back to the scene to continue to help. One of those two individuals was convicted last year of that attack on those female officers, but it's the attack on the third officer, who is a male, PC Zachary Marsden, who is a firearms officer, who, when CCTV footage was first released, it showed PC Marsden quite robustly detaining one one of these brothers. I think he was either kicking him in the head or had
it was a kick,
knee on his neck or something like that. And that caused outrage.
Yes.
And people were up in arms saying the police, they're absolute tyrants, they're brutes, what on earth is going on with policing in our country today? It then emerged, the full CCTV picture showed that these two tyrants had attacked those two female police officers, and there were then two remaining police officers, two males, against these two brothers, who then had to detain them, I would argue, in the most robust and appropriate way possible. Appropriate as the Chief Constable of Manchester Police, Stephen Watson, confirmed that that's what they were doing. But anyway, a jury has failed a second time.
It was a second, yes.
To convict these brothers. Peter, what do you make of it all? And what do you make of just the state of justice in our country
How long
today?
have you got? I get the dump button ready.
We've got a few minutes.
No, it's absolutely... it's absurd to me that this is where we find ourselves. I think it's really important to bring up that this is the second trial. They were deliberated for 30 hours over this. And the thing that really struck me, there was one bit that you missed out in the timeline, is that when this footage was released, it was actually leaked by by somebody within the police to defend the officers, because we only saw the kicking incident. That was the one that went everywhere. It was everything that happened before it was actually the bit that was that actually added context to the entire situation, and that's when everybody went, oh, okay, we got this massively wrong. The bit that really got me is that the police tried harder to investigate who leaked that than actually do anything about this situation. They tried to clamp down on the public finding out more about this situation. I find that grotesque and a bit that we don't really talk about. When it comes to the trial itself, I don't know, this sounds terrible, I'm genuinely not surprised. I saw the headline, I saw the outrage, and I went, why is everybody outraged? This was always going to happen.
Why?
I honestly, I think after the incident with the kids not wanting to be criminalised, then we had the Henry Novak situation, and then we've had this. I don't know. Just this week, just went. Why is anybody surprised that this is the direction that it's going in? And I understand the outrage, and everybody is rightly outraged, but for me, this just seemed the natural way that this was just going to end, because our justice system is not there to protect police officers. It's not there to protect the public. It is there to protect the criminal. That just seems to me the entire makeup and the entire kind of modus operandi of the justice system right now. Nothing seems to be on the side of the taxpayer, of the honest guy just wanting to go to work, you know, do the right thing. Those people always seem to be the ones getting criminalised or punished. It is everybody else that seems to be getting off scot-free.
Well, let's just have a listen to the lawyer for the brothers, Amir Anwar. He was speaking outside Liverpool Crown Court yesterday. Here's what he had to say.
Since the two brothers were charged in 2024, they have been subjected to an orgy of race hate. Meanwhile, politicians such as Nigel Farage and far-right activists have operated with total impunity. Social media posts viewed by millions created a highly prejudicial atmosphere in which a lynch mob mentality that was racist, anti-Muslim, called for deportation, riots, the death penalty, and the hanging of the two brothers if they were acquitted. Even their sister and their newborn baby were threatened. The brothers have been accused of being rapists, terrorists, drug dealers, yet they are nothing of the sort. It is a matter of public record that prior to this incident, that both Fahir Amaz and Mohammed Ahmad had never been in trouble before.
Well, with the greatest respect to that lawyer, they had been in trouble before. They'd been in trouble moments before at the Starbucks cafe where it all kicked off. So anybody that wants to, anybody that challenges, whenever we talk about lawyers who might have a particular bias, or campaigners, or on the far left, or whatever, and think, no, that's not true. Lawyers are, all whiter than white. They're, they are the justice supremes in this country. They're absolutely not. They've got a case to represent. I totally understand that. He's the defence lawyer for those two brothers. But how people can't see through. I'm sure a lot of what he said was true. I'm sure. I'm sure the family did get attacked on social media. I'm sure they did have threats. But no more than MPs today. No more than. I'm sure the lovely team behind the glass, are filtering just only the lovely messages. Or have you only got lovely messages? You never know. They are all lovely so far, which is good. But on this show, people will text in. Yeah. They will be outraged. They will criticise. They will make threats. If you've had, maybe one too many from the night before. Who knows? So we get this all the time, but that is no reason, in my view, not to come to what is a pretty clear conclusion that when the police are trying to do their job, the police that put on that uniform, that turn up day after day, that put their lives on the line to protect all of us, they face the threat more than anyone else when they're in that situation. And it's an airport. I mean, any environment would be bad for this kind of situation to take place, but in an airport where there is a bit more tension, where security does run higher for all of the obvious reasons that I don't need to go into. When police intervene, you stand back, you let them do their job. Anyone that wants to try and stop them, block them through force, as was the case in this particular instance, I mean, it's a no-brainer to me, but obviously not to this jury.
No, I'd love to know what was said over these 30 hours of deliberate. I'd love to know what argument is realistically being had, where we could look at this evidence and that's the conclusion that we come to, not once, but twice. I don't understand it. I'm now starting to, and this sounds daft, agree with David Lammy that maybe juries aren't such a good thing anymore.
Well, that's part of the question I was going to ask. We've got to give a quick break in a second. But, you know, if we can't get the jury right, but if we can't have then judges, as we talked about that case that failed, you know,
Yes.
Justice Nicholas Rowland, who failed to send 3 teenage boys, I think, behind bars for the rape of other teenage girls because they behaved well in court, because they had a low IQ, because he didn't want to criminalise them for the rest of their lives. You know, no remorse or respect for the victims.
Whilst they were sat in the court.
Well, they had to sit through. You're absolutely right. But, you know, we've got judges that can't make the right decisions. We've got juries that then seem to be unable, in my view, and certainly that in the Daily Mail this morning, to make the right decisions. Then where does that leave us? Is our justice system broken? Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. You can text us on 87222 or tweet us at talkTV. Followed by your message. More from Peter Barnes after the break. This is Charlie Rowley sitting in for Alex Phillips. This is Talk.
What a birthday present that is.
Brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing. It is where the nation can and will come to talk. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, weekdays from 6 a.m.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, welcome back to Talk with me, Charlie Rowley, sitting in for Alex Phillips, taking you all the way through to 1 o'clock this afternoon. We're going through all the headlines in the front pages, all the latest news and views. Get in touch, 0344 499 1000. The question we're asking, mainly this morning, is our justice system broken? How can we fix it? Many people of that view that it is broken, but how do you think we can fix it? Is it too late? As Peter Barnes was just saying a second ago, is the balance tipped so much in favour of the perpetrators and not the victims that it's too late to reverse? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. We'll get as many calls and text messages read out as we can as the afternoon goes on. Peter, let's move on to politics. Something which, you might be familiar with.
Yes,
You've talked about it once or twice.
Just once or twice. I think it's how we met, isn't it, Charlie?
Andy Burnham. I'm glad you remembered.
Yes.
No idea who you were when you came.
I know.
Who's he?
I was here before you.
Let's talk about Andy Burnham. Now, let's avoid talking about Makerfield if we can, because that saves me and the listeners and the viewers having to read out
I call it the
every
reading of the will.
candidate. I know. Believe me, I'm terrible with names at the best of times. So the idea of reading out 10, 15 people, however many are standing, I'd rather not.
I have to admit, just on that point, the worst was Denton and Gorton. It was such a long list of candidates.
I know. Which I mean, broadly, well, someone will tell me if I get in trouble now. But I mean, maybe that's why I was subconsciously in favour of maybe other political parties not standing. There was a debate, particularly around at the start, the Tories and Restore not putting up candidates because there was an argument that it would split the left and the right, and the Green Party too. Caroline Lucas, former leader of the Greens, said that she wouldn't have put up a candidate because she doesn't want to split what would be perceived as a just left or right wing vote. It should be more binary than that. That was their view anyway, and I did support that. I have to say, just to make it easier. But I'm not saying.
Was it more for self-serving reasons that you didn't have to read the list?
The people, absolutely. This is a public service broadcaster. But the people of Makerfield, exactly. But the people of Makerfield are perfectly intelligent to make up their own choice, however many people are on the ballot, and all those people. I'm going to avoid reading. So aside from talking about or avoiding talking about Makerfield, we can, however, talk about Andy Burnham, who is still the Mayor of Greater Manchester, who, should he become PM one way or another, should he get into the Commons one way or another, he said that he would rip up asylum hotel contracts if he became Prime Minister. Now, we talk a lot on this show about asylum hotels and illegal immigrants that come into the country that seem to get those hotels, 4- or 5-star hotels. They get health checks, they get dental checks, they get free trips out by local councils, they get money.
I keep thinking of trying to break into the country myself, and I might be able to get further up the list.
Well, yes, I might get a better phone. How do you think this will play out? Do you think someone who has said previously that he wants to rejoin the EU, someone that is courting, if you're going to become leader of the Labour Party, what has to be and is predominantly a left-leaning membership, how do you think this sits? Is this Andy Burnham just playing politics with the electorate rather than his own party? Is he doing his chances down by talking about this at this time? Because this isn't, I mean, did the Labour Party want these contracts ripped up?
Who knows? This is such a good question, Charlie, because the big problem...
Thank you very much.
It genuinely is. It's one that's not really talked about, is that Andy Burnham is stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to this from a political point of view. Is he has to run from the left to be Labour leader, but the particular bit of the country and the constituency and all the rest of it, it sits much more to the small C Conservative right. It is very reform territory. It doesn't like asylum hotels. It doesn't like the migrant crisis and all this kind of stuff. So he has the tightest of tight ropes to walk. So far, because he's not really been put under any pressure, he seems to be balancing it quite well. My problem with this is I don't want the hotels to close, only because we should just be able to know where everybody is. Because when you close the hotels, you actually have the bigger problem of HMOs. You have people spread out further into these communities. You have the problem of putting them in secret HMOs and things that are happening in the dark of night, and the public and their communities are not being told about it. I don't think it's the right policy. I find it interesting that he's developed this level of backbone and conscience as he's running to be a member of Parliament. Didn't say boo to a goose the entire time he was Greater Manchester Mayor. Couldn't help but notice that. I find this bit is very jarring, I won't lie, but it is interesting to see where this will lie with the kind of membership of the party, because you're right, the membership is very lefty. They don't really like the narratives that are coming out of Shabana Mahmood, for example. But my theory is on this is actually to try to cut Shabana off from any kind of challenge of a leadership bid.
Oh, right.
My theory is that if you put together the Tony Blair Institute intervention the other day, the Alan Milburn, and all the noises about the migrant numbers coming down, Shabana's going to run against Andy Burnham if he wins, or if he doesn't win, to be honest. So I think she's going to make her pitch now, and I think this is all starting to play out as I kind of thought it might do. I think Andy Burnham has a bit of a problem, is that if he wins, he has to win by over 8 points. A nice decisive victory. He's outside of a kind of a challenge to his leadership from losing his own seat. He loses less than that, he's in the Angela Rayner, Bridget Phillipson territory of he probably won't be an MP at the next general election, let alone be a Prime Minister. I think there's a lot of like kind of looking further down the road situations going on here in the Labour Party, because most of the cabinet won't be members of Parliament next general election. So I think it will be fascinating to see how this one plays out. It really, really is.
On current projections. Of
course, yes.
If they develop a strategy, and you never know, if it's one that's...
Oh, look, a flying pig.
Yeah. What did you just call me? If they have it, you're absolutely right. If they have a strategy, and that's been the problem so far.
Yes.
They have got an overwhelming majority, and this is what is so. Just you don't have to be nailing your colours to the mast when it comes to a political party or membership or whatever, but just as an ordinary citizen, member of the public, when the government comes in on the back of the last government being so hated, the Tory party got an absolute kicking, their worst defeat ever, on the back of the politics, the chopping and changing of prime ministers, the economy, doing somersaults for various reasons. Although the headlines, I think, were slightly more dramatic in their reporting about Liz Truss compared to what we're seeing today under Rachel Reeves.
Bring back the lettuce, all is forgiven.
Well, exactly. We're in a worse position now than what we were back there. But anyway, putting that to one side, people didn't like the chopping and changing. They didn't like the lack of leadership. They didn't like any of it. And they thought the Tories have had 14 years in power. They haven't cut taxes. They haven't gone on top of illegal immigration or migration, full stop. So, get them out. And in came the Labour Party with a huge majority. Loveless majority, I think, loveless landslide, as I call it. But, huge nonetheless. How can it be, anyone would ask, just short of 2 years in, that they are now talking about a leadership challenge to the Prime Minister, the man that was leader of the opposition for 5 years, that got the Labour Party to a position of being electable again, getting rid of, as he would call it, Jeremy Corbyn's toxicity, the anti-Semitism that was in the Labour Party. He said, I've changed the Labour Party. That was his mantra. That's how he got the mandate to go and change, lead the country for the better. Change being that word, change.
Yes.
Shortchanged, I think you'll find.
If I had a shot for every time, I'd still be on the floor after that general election.
Exactly. But they're in such a precarious position. But they don't get it. Tony Blair has intervened. You're absolutely right. With, I thought, a perfectly good strategy. Yeah. He's still got it, Tony Blair. He got a few things wrong, don't get me wrong. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll talk about that as the show goes on. But broadly, not having a strategy is the fate of this government. Why are we not we should be cutting welfare. We should be cutting taxes to allow inward investment, to get that growth that the Labour Party wants, to invest in the public services that it's talking about. And part of that is stopping migration. It is dealing with the small boat crossings, which Shabama Mahmood seems to be very tough on, but some in the Labour Party just don't like that.
Yeah, I think it's because, realistically, the Labour Party got into power that they thought they had the loveful majority. They thought they were beloved. And that's the bit that they got wrong. They never understood that the Tories lost, not that they won. I think that is the main thing where the Labour Party really, really got this catastrophically wrong. Keir Starmer was never beloved in the Labour Party anyway. He was somewhat of a kind of, we need to get rid of Corbyn. The others are a bit useless. He'll do, basically. And I think because he didn't have a camp, he didn't have a tribe that he belonged to, you could kind of, each side of faction of the Labour Party, which we're starting to see, makes the Tories look like happy families. And I think we could kind of put everything to one side and say, yes, okay, we'll put him forward for the next general election because we're likely to win because of how bad the Conservatives are, and they've got the rise of reform to deal with. Funny how they've now got a bigger problem with reform, I think, but I do think that the reason the Labour Party really fell down is they never defined what change was. They seem to understand that when they lose an election, it's that people want change faster, not that what's happening is incorrect. Have you noticed that? Every kind of election, it's always the people have said they need faster change. No bit of the public has ever said that. They want different. They want something new. And I do think they're now at the point where they're having to get a new leader because they suddenly realise that having a guy with no North Star and what he actually believes in, you can't have running a country. Not with the number of problems that we've got going around. And the big fundamental problem with the Labour Party, they do everything for the Labour Party, not for the country. Everything is more It's got to do with their vision, their ideology, their party. It's not, well, we'll convince people to come with us. It's, if you don't want to be with us, then you're a this, you're a that, you're a far right, you're something else. That is where I think the Labour Party are getting this catastrophically wrong. It's because they're not governing for the country, they're governing for themselves. This is where the Tories fell down after 14 years. I mean, even I was just like, just make it end.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's it. The criticism of the left is always they're a campaign organisation rather than government. But I'm sure we'll be talking about them. We've got 3 hours to go.
Oh, good.
2.5 now. Time flies when you're having fun. I'm sure the Labour Party will come up again. But we're going to take a short break now. After the break, we'll be talking to Mike Neville, formerly of the Met Police. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. This is the home of common sense. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning to you. Welcome back to the home of common sense on Talk with me, Charlie Rowley, sitting in for the wonderful Alex Phillips. Let me know what you think about the conversation we've been having so far. 0344 499 1000. You can text the word Talk to 87222. Is our justice system broken? What do you think about the latest stories where police have got it wrong, police have had to apologise, in a story that we're just going to be touching on very shortly, or where our justice system, our juries seem not to be able to make what is a blindingly obvious decision to me to convict 2 brothers that were involved in an assault on police officers at Manchester Airport. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Now, one of the stories that we didn't talk about at the top, but I'm delighted that we're going to be talking now with Mike Neville, a former Metropolitan Detective Chief Inspector. So you know a thing or two about about police crime. Well, this is a case that has got everybody up in arms. This is the case of a young man called Henry Novak, who was, I think, 23, 20 was he? I can't remember his age. I'll get it for you shortly. But he was involved in an attack. He was stabbed by someone carrying a ceremonial knife, and when he was 18 years old. Thank you very much, producer. Just told me. I'm conflating Henry's age with that of the previous firearms officer at Manchester Airport. But Henry Novak, 18 years old, and he was stabbed by someone carrying a ceremonial knife. Police came to the scene, and the perpetrator of the attack, who stabbed Henry, told the police he was the victim of a racist attack. And whilst Henry was on the floor, effectively, bleeding, the police arrested him, took him away, and he died later of those injuries. Now, the police believed what the perpetrator said in this case, as opposed to Henry. Now, have I got that right, first of all?
You have got that right.
Right. How does that come about when the police make that kind of decision, if you're able to talk about that? And the police have obviously apologised because they've got it wrong. Why do you feel the police did get it wrong?
They've got it wrong because since the Stephen Lawrence inquiry brought in this idea that if anybody perceives something to be racist, it is racist. So we moved away from this facts-based evidence that we used to have. And any racist attack is a wicked thing. But the thing is, with the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, it created a whole wave of thing in the police where suddenly being racist was worse than being a murderer, worse than being a child molester, worse. You know, that's why we see the grooming gangs covered up. And with this case here, that you have these young officers who go to university, they're almost brainwashed that the police are racist, you've got to take every allegation of racism seriously. And this manifests itself in the most awful form in this awful death of this young man, Mr. Novak, whose last living hours minutes on this earth were spent handcuffed while he was bleeding to death. And it's not, as I say, it's not the individual officers. This is 3 decades worth of woke, brainwashing, left liberal infiltration of the police. It is so wicked. But what this case has done, and if this young man's life is done anything, it has shone a light on the wickedness of this anti-racism thing, that it's gone far, far, far too far, and this is the net result of it.
I think you're absolutely right, and loads of people will agree with you on that. I'm sure the calls will be coming in.
But not the establishment.
Not the establishment. Well, we'll talk more about the police in a second. We're going to hear a clip now from the acting, I think, Deputy Chief Constable Robert France, of Hampshire Constabulary, who's apologising on behalf of the officers involved. Let's play that clip.
I am deeply sorry that Henry could not be saved. I'm sorry that in the moments before he lost consciousness, he had been handcuffed and arrested. The facts heard in court should leave no doubt in anyone's mind who was lying to officers that night and why we didn't immediately understand what had happened. During the 999 call, when officers first arrived at the scene, and even when Henry's condition was deteriorating quickly, his killer continued to divert the blame, obstruct our inquiries, and never admit the serious harm which had been done.
I mean, that's a harrowing admission, isn't it, by the police? You know, I've never seen anything like that before, where the police have categorically come out to say, we've got this so fundamentally wrong, and officers still at the scene didn't listen to Henry. They continued to believe that of the actual perpetrator, and a young man's life has gone. And so just to expand what you were saying just before that clip, you know, those officers who... I'm so torn because I don't want to. I'm so for the police, obviously. You know, these are men and women who put on that uniform day in, day out. They keep us all safe. They're clearly in it for the right reasons. They want to do a good job. Obviously, you get the odd bad apple that we hear about, and that's even harrowing as well. But how did these police officers, just because of, I agree with you, training that seems to now be going down a woke path where you've got to, where you're in fear of being accused of being racist, a camera might come up in your face being filmed for being racist as a police officer, and that prevents you just doing your job.
It does, absolutely. This interferes with everything. It interferes with stop and search, so you get young black men being killed on the street because police officers are afraid of stopping other young black men who are more likely to carry a knife than anywhere else. You had there was a West Midlands, the West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner, so he's another woke character, and we saw the infiltration of political correctness into the West Midlands Police with the Tel Aviv football game. He's come out again, disproportionality amongst stop and search. You cannot... Different races commit different crimes. The stats show that. Now, at least now we're allowed to debate that. We weren't allowed to debate that for about 20 years. And so what young officers are faced with, you've stopped too many black people. You're identifying too many black people. I was in a ridiculous situation at Scotland Yard where I used to decide who was circulated on the Caught on Camera magazine. And I used to, because I invented this unit, and I used to pick the best image with the most serious crime. Because on the front page, like the editor, you want to draw people in and they'll look at the shoplifters at the back. I had a phone call, you must put more white people on the front cover. There is an obsession with race. In the police, there is a lot of groupthink. All the senior officers think the same. There's no one ever going to challenge it. What I fear in Hampshire is what they'll offer the two officers who've been brainwashed, who played the game that the senior officers want. They'll be offered up as sacrificial lambs on some discipline board, and they'll be booted out. And it'll be unfair on those officers. It's not those officers who are to blame. It is those who pushed and pushed and pushed this agenda. When you become a police constable, you swear an oath to act without fear or favour. So you shouldn't be judging anybody, if they're gay or straight, black or white, Asian, whatever they are. But we've come to a situation now, all the pride flags. You know, I've always said the pride flags on the police car. They were Durham Constabulary last year were told it's illegal for officers on duty to go on that pride plane because you're showing support for one side or the other. I've always said if you're a Catholic priest and an imam and you're campaigning against gay marriage or whatever, and the police turn up with a pride flag on, well, what does it say? Does it say they're going to be impartial about who we had a fight with, or does it say I'm on one side or the other? And British policing has always been seen as the best in the world. And now we have it that it, you know, trust it, and we've had all this wokeness, and we were told if we did all this diversity recruiting, did that, then there'd be more trust and confidence in the police. Well, they've done all of that, and trust and confidence in British policing is at a rock bottom, and it's tragic.
But some people would push back a little bit and say, look, you know, there has been institutional racism within the police, hasn't there? And you talked, you know, about the Stephen Lawrence case, which years ago.
I would say that's more to do with incompetence than anything else. More to do with incompetence than anything else.
But didn't Theresa May sort of bring out, didn't she sort of say, when she was saying
Theresa May's the most awful Home Secretary ever. Anything that Theresa May says...
Well, she's not here to defend herself.
Let her come in and defend herself.
Well, she's a good friend of mine.
Theresa May was the ultimate. A problem shelved is a problem solved. The most awful Home Secretary ever. And I was in the police at the time. Absolutely rubbish. Let me say that. Or the Tories and the nasty, all that sort of nonsense.
Well, she's not here to defend herself. But what I thought she was.
Let her come. Let her be here.
I'd love her to come on. I'll message her after this. But she was, I think, trying to get to. The point where in some communities there was still, and I'm sure there have been reports that still find that the police have fallen below the standard that's expected when it comes to racism and institutional racism.
The police cannot help who commits crime. So they're told all the time. So, for example, young black men represent 2% of the population of London. Young black men. They commit 60% of knife murders. If the police were wicked and evil and institutionally racist, these communist phrases that we use, if they were, they would pick on elderly Asian ladies because that's the easiest. My stepmother's an elderly Asian. She won't give the police any trouble. You could duff her up. You could do what you want with her, and she would never complain. And she's small enough to. So if you're wicked and racist, why would you pick on young black men who are fit and strong usually? And it's utterly nonsense. The police are simply dealing with the crimes that occur in front of them. They cannot help who commits crime. And people like Theresa May reducing stop and search, Sadiq Khan, the mainstream parties are all to blame for this. They have resulted, there's been more murders of young black men, more stabbings of young black men, often by young black men, because of that political posturing to get votes.
Well, I'm all for stop and search, don't worry, viewers. I haven't got all woke here, but I'm just posing some questions.
No, I don't mind.
But you're absolutely right. But so when we have to, well, you've touched on something there that's really important because it is making sure that actually the percentage of crimes that are committed and you're targeting the right people, which is why, I mean, I've said this before, if you're talking about education, for example, there's a group of people who are falling below in their maths or English, you target maybe young boys, for example, and you get those standards up.
White working class boys.
White working class boys. If in the health service there's a small proportion of people that have a disproportionate amount of illness.
Diabetes.
Exactly. You target that community and you get them the health care that they need. When it comes to rapes and sexual assaults and grooming gangs, for example, they are a small proportion in terms of the population as a whole, but committing a huge percentage of the crime taking place. So you go after and you target those Pakistani grooming gangs, don't you? But the government didn't want to do that. They didn't hold a national inquiry.
What they want, because it doesn't fit with the agenda. The agenda is that everybody's the same, multiculturalism is a wonderful thing, and they've got a plan, and it's become not a plan, it's become a religion, so they'll absolutely suppress anybody who questions it. As I've said, I'm part of the problem here, in the sense that when Sir Paul Condon was the commissioner, I wrote I did a degree. I joined the army at 16 and I joined the police, and all these people with degrees were supposed to be clever, so I thought, well, I'll be clever as well then. So I did it part-time and I did a research into street robbery because I was at Lambeth, and I found out, you know, the awfulness of it, a lot of young black men who were suspects, whatever else, and I gave those stats to Sir Paul Condon, who released them, and the establishment never forgave him. They went after him, and then the tragedy of the murder of Stephen Lawrence was used as a stick to beat him with. So I'm part of the problem in the sense that those stats that PC Neville at Clapham Police Station were released by the commissioner.
But if it's phrased in the, you know, in a different way, for example, so if the Home Office, if the Met, if the Mayor of London were actually able to say, look, who who are the victims of the majority of crime, knife crime in London? It is people from, it is black young men. They are the victims.
But they need to be honest about the suspects as well.
Well, exactly.
They're not honest.
Exactly.
And they suppress these. It's only now, for example, we know that Afghanis are 20 times more likely to commit sexual offences than British-born people. But as I've said, for years they suppressed it. I went to a meeting at Lambeth Town Hall, and the superintendent got hold of the report about robbery and ripped out the page that said who the suspects were. Ripped it out because she wanted promotion, and promotion depended on concealing facts. And that does what that wickedness does. It does no one any favours, particularly those who are involved in that crime, who could possibly be diverted from it, and more importantly, the victims of the crime who could be saved from it.
Mike, fascinating discussion. We're going to pause there for a second. Let me know what your thoughts about that. 0344 499 1000. We'll take a small break now. This is Charlie Rowley in for Alex Phillips. This is Talk.
Brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing. It is where the nation can and will come to talk. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, weekdays from 6 a.m.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you very much for joining me this morning. Charlie Rowley in for Alex Phillips. I think I'm going to have to lie down after that conversation. But what a brilliant chat it was, I think, with Mike there. It didn't hold back on poor old Theresa May, a good friend of mine. But there you go. I think he was slightly on the fence. Let me know what you think. What he had to say, particularly about policing in London in particular. But obviously we were hearing from the interim Deputy Chief Constable Robert France of Hampshire apologising on behalf of his police force for effectively and essentially believing an attacker who had stabbed poor Henry Novak, who later died of those injuries. But the police sided with someone who said, well, Henry was racist, which didn't turn out to be the case. 0344 499 1000, get your calls in about that. Peter, just want to ask you, Peter Barnes still in the studio with me over the next 2 hours. What did you think about what Mike was saying?
The McPherson report is directly responsible for that guy's death, I'm afraid, for Henry Novak's death. It is an institutional kind of hangover that we have. Yes, what happened to Stephen Lawrence is abhorrent. I agree with Mike that we overcorrected. We have a tendency to do that in this nation now, that something bad happens and we therefore overcorrect. There is one element that Mike didn't get to, that is Black Lives Matter. This country lost its mind over Black Lives Matter, what I believe will be one of the greatest cons of British political history, because where is everybody who supposedly cares about Black Lives Matter the minute black guys are getting stabbed in the middle of the city? Nobody seems to care anymore. It just seemed to be a little bit more about a white guy writing a check. And I think we have to start being a lot more realistic about who is committing certain crimes, where they are coming from, what communities are affected, because this guy... I'm sorry, this is abhorrent, because this guy was bleeding out. He was dying. He was handcuffed, and the police just get to say sorry. I'm sorry, that's not acceptable in my book. Resign, or more importantly, fired. Why is nobody... People on this channel are sick to death of hearing me say this. Why is nobody fired? Why does nobody ever get fired? Michael Stewart, who ran... I use this as a prime example. He ran Prevent. He missed Axel Ruda Cabana 3 times. He's still got a pension. He gets to walk off into the sunset. The family of Henry Novak will never get over this. And the police just said, sorry. I'm sorry. That is not acceptable in my book.
No, well, I think a lot of people would agree with that. I mean, but is that not just the missing link then? Because all of those things can be true at the same time. That, you know, the majority of people, so as Mike was saying, the majority of crime, knife crime committed in London, as he was saying, but by the stats that he provided, by young black men.
Yes.
But the victims are young black men. So surely there's a case then for us to be more aware about black lives. You know, whether it's through the prism of Black Lives Matter, it's making sure that, okay, there is a problem here within particular groups, particular communities, particular areas of London where it's prevalent, and therefore it needs more attention. But it needs more, for example, then more people to be engaged in the community, maybe more people from black and ethnic minority communities to be in the police. Is that not fair?
I think the problem more is that Black Lives Matter, we only cared about if you were a black person or you were a victim by a white person. I don't think they really cared that much about black on black crime. I don't think they really cared about that, because if they did, they'd still be marching every single weekend. They'd still be doing more than they are right now, which is essentially nothing.
Well, it's the education part of it, I think, where, you know, Mike was saying that time has moved on from the, you know, the 60s and 70s, where I'd say report after report, and I think this is why Theresa May was keen to make sure that police forces aren't are doing enough to root out institutional racism where it lies within police forces, because we had obviously the back of the Stephen Lawrence inquiry and a death there. But then you have, on the other side of the Atlantic, George Floyd.
Yes.
Now, again, people have lots of views about that, but that is that there is this tension still within the police, and particularly between, you know, black communities and, you know, as you say, white officers. That shouldn't be there in 2026, surely. You know, people who put on that uniform should just be policing the streets as they see it, responding to crimes as they're called in, as they're committed, regardless of, as Mike was saying, gender, race, sexual orientation, or... I mean, I take a slightly different view to Mike as it happened, because I'm not against police officers actually trying to prevent crime. Well, the whole point of police is to prevent crime. So if they're at Pride, as Mike was saying, or if they're at the Notting Hill Carnival, I have no issue actually with the police engaging in a way which could be seen to be fun.
I agree with you on this. The whole being in the community aspect of it.
Because just appearing, you know, fully armed head to toe, riot gear in hand, whether it's at Pride, whether it's at Notting Hill, that creates a tension.
Just the police being in the area, everybody is tenser. I don't know about you, but the minute you see 6 police officers knock on someone's front door, everybody's back suddenly goes up. I agree with you on this, definitely.
I don't mind revealing my diary. I'm going to watch Arsenal in the Champions League final at the Emirates Stadium a little bit later on. There will be hundreds of police. There's about 500 police, I think, are being deployed there. They will not be there looking pretty. They're there to make sure that, look, if you get a bit rowdy, folks, if you've had a few beers or what, and you try and cause a bit of mischief, we will be here. So that is the presence that they are looking for.
I think it's the problem is they had that presence at the football match. They don't have it at Black Lives Matter protests where they took the knee, or where they did the certain things. It is it's the lack of balance between what the police do, the community aspect, and then do the whole we're at a football match kind of we've got to beat everybody down situation that people get in. My other problem is there's no such thing as institutional racism. People are racist,
yes.
Not letterheads and postcodes.
No, you know, I think you're absolutely right. No, I think a lot of people would agree with that, so we've got to be very, very clear about that. Peter, thank you so much. That's our first hour over. Let us know all your thoughts about that. 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk to 87222. We'll be getting all of your voice notes, calls, text messages in the second hour. We've got 2 hours to go. This is Charlie Rowley sitting in for the wonderful Alex Phillips. This is the home of common sense. I'm looking forward to the next 2 hours. It's going to be fun. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley sitting in for the wonderful Alex Phillips on Talk. Your brilliant host is having a lovely week off, or weekend off, I should say. So I'll be here today and tomorrow from 10 all the way through to 1 p.m. Let us know what you think of the show so far. We've had some brilliant conversations. We've been having some brilliant topical debates. 0344 499 1000. The question we're asking everybody today is our justice system broken? How can we fix it in this country when we have judges that are failing to lock up or send to prison young boys that go on to commit those abhorrent crimes such as rape, when we have a jury that fail to be able to sentence 2 young men in Manchester for attacking our police officers, and when police in Hampshire have had to apologise for the death of Henry Novak, a man who was stabbed, but yet the perpetrator just claimed that he was the victim of a racist assault or attack, a hate crime, and the police believed him over Henry Novak, who later died of the injuries that he sustained. Henry Novak is the real victim in all of this, prompting Hampshire police to apologise. But is this good enough, folks? What do we expect now from our police? Can you trust the police these days? Can you trust, even if you feel that someone has been arrested for committing a crime, that they're actually going to be locked up behind bars where they belong? 0344 499 1000. Would love to hear your views on everything that we've had so far. I'm delighted to be joined by Peter Barnes, political commentator.
Hi, Charlie.
And obviously fan of the friend and fan and star of Talk.
Oh, I live here. The people think I have like a bunk bed downstairs somewhere.
You're absolutely right. You're here again. And I mean, we've just had the former Met Police, former Chief Constable, Mike Neville, who's very strong on what was happening when it came to particularly Henry Novak, but talking about crime in general. Do you think our justice system's broken? Is our policing broken in this country?
I think it is. My bigger problem is it broken beyond repair? How much of a kind of institutional and cultural turnaround are we going to actually to fix this problem? I think this is the real bit of the debate that we're not having, and I think that's what's got to happen next. Really, it's great that we can point at something and say this is terrible. How are we fixing it? And that's leadership. That's the leadership that we need right now. And I'm looking out at the political scene. I'm not really seeing it. No, that's my bigger concern. 2-tier justice, 2-tier policing. It's all going on in this country, isn't it? Is it beyond repair? Can we fix it? Well, someone that might be able to answer those questions or give certainly a view on it. I'm delighted now to be joined by Philip Kisley, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. Have I got that right, Philip?
Charlie, you've got it perfectly right. Yeah. Well done.
Thank you very much. We're off to a good start. We're early into the second hour. Lovely to be joined by you. Thank you so much for giving up your Saturday afternoon. You were just hearing Peter and I talk about that particular case of Henry Novak, like poor young boy that was stabbed, that was the victim, where Hampshire police have now had to come out to apologise because they believed the perpetrator, who claimed that he was a victim of a racist attack, when actually he was the perpetrator of stabbing Henry Novak. Just more broadly, what do you think about that particular case? Is it enough that the police have just apologised? Peter doesn't think so. I certainly don't think so. But what does that say about our justice system? What does it say about our policing in Britain today? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's appalling. It's a terrible, terrible tragedy that young boy, the last moments of his life were spent in handcuffs, being called a criminal, basically, when he'd been stabbed 5 times, a frenzied attack with a huge knife as well. So this is appalling. I think Peter just picked up the key points there. It's, what do we do about this? Where do we go from here? Well, I think, first of all, we've got to identify the elephants in the room. We've really got to kind of hone in on the problems, but I don't think our government and our kind of cultural setup will enable us to do that at the moment. So I think we have a police service and a judiciary that are absolutely captured by anti-racism. and activism. And if you are an activist who sees racism everywhere, then you are dangerous. You are a problem. And if you are, dispensing justice, if you are policing our towns and cities, then you are going to put people in danger. And this threads right through. It's systemic. It threads through everything we've got. Okay, so it's education. It's public administration, it's the National Health Service, it's media, it's the armed forces, it's the Church of England. We are in a terrible situation. So I think one of the first things we can do is actually start dealing with details and start dealing with the small things, which is shoplifting, and small kind of crimes like that, which just tend to literally go unpunished. I saw a tweet yesterday where someone had got in touch with Marks and Spencer's because they'd seen someone just packing a bag full of expensive meat and steaks and stuff like that, and the shop just let them walk out. So what happens with that kind of thing? We, the consumer, pay on the other end. So the cost of living gets much higher. We have a low trust society. We are in danger, literally in danger. And all of these things come together, and it just makes for a terrible experience living in Britain in 2026. And as I say, many of us are in danger. We live in a sectarian society, basically. The final point, Charlie, is this. If you have asymmetric multiculturalism, you cannot have equality before the law. It just doesn't work. It really does not work, and we are in a terrible situation because of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of people would agree with that, Philip. And as you say, it's both ends of the spectrum. It is that what's perceived to be, although it is not, in my view, a petty crime or small crime, like you say, the shoplifting that takes place that we see time and time again. Even when we see, I know it's a central London issue predominantly, but when we see young people still just barging through barriers, they're not even paying for their ticket. That still goes on today. If there isn't any level of authority that clamps down on that actually tells people, no, you can't do that, stating the obvious, then people just continue to do it. People tend to just push the boundaries even more. That social contract in our society is broken down. That's on one end of the spectrum. But before we move on just from the Henry Novak case, I just want to play a clip of the interview that the Chief Constable Robert France gave. It was the interview on Henry Novak. It's quite long, but I think it's important just to play out what he was saying, how he was handling it at the time before their apology.
What action is being taken in relation to the officers who handcuffed him?
We referred ourselves immediately to the Independent Office of Police Conduct the following day, and they've been independently investigating ever since. We are absolutely committed to acting on their findings. The officers are witnesses in that case. As I say, it's clear to me the circumstances were complex.
But that was despite Henry saying that he had been stabbed.
So Henry clearly says he's been stabbed, and it's quite clear that officers don't immediately understand that that's what's happened. Whilst he did have some injuries, that significant bleeding was internal. There was not a significant out of blood where Henry was. The pathologist is clear that fatal wound was deep and internal. The bleeding was internal. And yes, despite that, there was nothing that officers could have done to save Henry. So this case is about officers who have limited information, far less information than we have now, who were lied to by Henry's killer on that call. Only one person is responsible for killing Henry, and that's the man who stabbed him that night.
Well, I'm very clear in my own head what I think about that. Obfuscation, shifting the blame, unable to really take on the fact that officers failed in their duty of care to Henry. They failed to understand the situation, although that's accepted by Robert France there, but trying to still justify his way out of a paper bag, I can't say anything stronger than that, shows that the mentality still of some policing in this country, the protectionism of maybe their own officers rather than, I know he said he referred themselves to the Independent Office of Police Complaints Commission afterwards, a day later, fine. but still to have this reticence, this resistance to actually say what he has now had to come out and do is offer a full and frank apology on behalf of his officers. I mean, it just demonstrates the state of policing that we have in our country, doesn't it, Phil?
Yeah, and they're backed into a corner, and it makes them look stupid because, you know, he said, you know, the murderer lied to us. I've got news. The murderers do sometimes lie. You know,
Yes.
It might be that you take it as read that sometimes murderers lie, and people who are lying on the floor covered in blood are probably not lying. Okay, I mean, he called this a circumstances which were complex. They're not complex at all. They're actually very simple. A young boy has been stabbed and murdered. What they did was they made a value judgment. Okay, they entered the scene. They looked at who was doing what and where, and crucially, they looked at the colour of the two boys, their skin, the colour of their skin, and they made a decision on the colour of their skin, not what they were seeing in terms of the scenario in front of their eyes, but who was good brown and who was bad white. This was about racism. This is about their kind of indoctrination, the anti-racism indoctrination, which comes before policing, which comes before safety. This cult-like obsession with racism really needs to stop, if only because when you call everybody racist, or you just assume that people are racist because they have white skin, what you do crucially is let the real racists, the people who are really harmful, get away with it. And that's kind of essentially where we are at the moment.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And there is a culture that has developed in our country, a culture that Kemi Badenoch, who was writing in the Times yesterday, suggested on the back of Tony Blair's intervention. Remember him? Trying to
all too well, unfortunately.
Well, he obviously came out and gave some, direction for the current Labour crop. They didn't take to it particularly well, but Kemi Badenoch responded to that and said, hold on, it's all because of you, former Prime Minister Sir Tony Blair, that we're in the mess that we're currently in, through things like the Equalities Act. We are now, as she put it, run by HR, where people feel as though that they can't put a foot out of place, that they can't challenge where they feel they need to challenge because there's the fear of being accused effectively of being racist. Where you're right, in the sense, in this case, police officers believed a liar. Because murderers and criminals lie. Just as you have people on those small boat crossings, people lying about their age, lying about their religion, lying about their sexuality, claiming that they're being persecuted, claiming that they can't live in their own country, and they come into the UK, they get the hotel accommodation, they get all the benefits that they can have, that's enabled them, that they're allowed to have, and then they go on and commit more crimes, and we can't deport them. We can't even say, no, that's not right. And when you do bring up these cases that are in our media, time and time again, being reported as fact as to what's going on, you have a whole group of people, it tends to be the left-wing activists in our country, the campaigners that say, no, you dare talk about people that have arrived in the small boats. They really are asylum seekers. They really are refugees. Well, they're criminals, some of them, half the time. But if you say that, you're deemed far right. You're deemed racist. This culture of not being able to call things out for what they are, all the while trying to remember that actually we are a very, very nice people. We are very generous. We open our heart and our homes to people that want to come into the country, that are genuinely in need of support, who are genuine asylum seekers. And for every one charlatan that turns up, for every one person that we believe, who says that they're, 14, 15, they're an unaccompanied minor, but they've, thrown their passport overboard, they've got a beard longer than mine, Adam's apple that sticks out no end, they're 6 foot tall, whatever, you see where this is going. We believe those people and we let them take advantage of us over someone that might be in genuine need. That's what really grinds my gears. But do you agree with Kemi Badenoch? That's my rant over, Philip. That's my view. But do you agree with Kemi Badenoch that we are run by HR, Britain?
Yeah, I think there was a time about 25 years ago, something like that. All of a sudden, Britain became this kind of middle management mediocrity, and this was kind of deified in government. And it happened right across the institutions. I was working in higher education at the time, and it transformed not overnight, but over a few years, from a place of real thought and innovation to one of grinding procedure, where you were not allowed to say this, you were not allowed to say that. Things became dangerous, thoughts became dangerous. And there was this one thing that began to be said over and over again. And it was this idea that you must not stereotype. You must see the good in everyone, because if you don't, we come back to the word again, you are racist. Now, what that essentially does is strip you of any defences whatsoever. Now, you shouldn't go around thinking everybody's a potential murderer or everybody's a potential rapist or anything like that. But you have to be realistic about people. You have to look at scenarios and you have to make value judgments which will actually keep you safe. And you have to do that on a personal level, but we have to do that as a society on a broad national level. And we are not doing that. We are putting faux virtue, identity politics, a love of everything else apart from ourselves. We're putting that first, and we literally are, especially women and children, we literally are putting ourselves in danger because, one, we don't want to come across as being nasty. Okay. Two, there is this dominant ideology that people find it so difficult to push back against. And three, underlying all of that stuff is a sense that the people who are really perpetrating this want to pull apart the fabric of our society, want to destroy, the ordinary building blocks that are central to our society. Work, heteronormativity, the family, a sense of community, neighborhoods, earning money, all of those things, want to go, they want to push those by the wayside. And that's essentially taking the foundation out from under us.
Philip, you're absolutely right, as ever. Spot on. Really great to talk to you. We've got to leave it there. Hope to speak to you again soon. That was Philip Kisley there, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. A man who is speaking more common sense than most, but he's welcome. This is the home of common sense. This is Charlie Rowley sitting in for Alex Phillips. This is Talk.
Good morning to you. This is Talk, the home of common sense.
Brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing. It is where the nation can and will come to talk. Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, weekdays from 6 a.m.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. This is Charlie Rowley sitting in for Alex Phillips on the home of common sense here at Talk. Let us know what you think so far. 0344 499 1000. That's the number to call. Send us a voice note, or you can send us a text at 87222. And the texts have been coming in thick and fast. Let me get through some of these. Talk morning, Charlie. Great to see you presenting on Talk on an increasing basis. Well, thank you very much. That's Nicola in Norfolk. She said, by the way, one of the highlights of my week this week was watching you and Ian Collins descending into fits of giggles about Lainey and her boiling hot caravan. Yes, it was something to behold, I have to say. Yes. Lainey, just for those that weren't aware, Lainey, God bless her, texted in to say that she was struggling with the heat in her caravan. It got to about 46 degrees. Did I have any advice? And I just thought to myself, well, considering it's only about 30 degrees outside, you should probably just get outside the caravan. So there we go. But it was very early in the morning, and things happen when the sun's out on an early morning, folks. It really does. It does do plays with you. Funny. Charlie, our dysfunctional government are happy to pay the French billions for failing to stop the boats, but not happy to fund prostate cancer screening. They would not dare stop breast cancer screening. Well, you're absolutely right, Mick. They wouldn't do that, and they should be providing, I think, that screening for prostate cancer. It's very important. People should get tested, or get that screening that should be available to you. Penny from Essex follows on from this. Now, Penny's got in touch on behalf of her husband, and I'm glad that she has, because she says, good morning. Prostate cancer. My husband peed some blood straight to the urologist, and there was prostate cancer. Very small, but with no spread, Radiology was had for 20 days, 10 minutes each one, costing £850 a hit. Thank goodness for Bupa. He's now totally clear with a PSA of 0.01, and yesterday, undetected. Gone. The most prevalent cancer in men, all men should be screened. Penny from Essex. Penny, you're absolutely right, and all the best to your husband, because, you know, and what Peter was saying earlier on, you know, men don't go and seek help that they need. They don't go to the doctor when they need to. They don't talk about issues that most men face, and they should. We should be having conversation. We should be going to the doctor when we need to. I know nobody wants to do it. I know it's a bit embarrassing at times, but when, as you say, Penny, prostate cancer is the number one killer, the number one cancer in men. Absolutely. Go and get tested. I'll read a couple more and then we'll take some calls. The decision on the two brothers trial had now given the green light to all those on the far left who want to do basically what they want. There is no recourse. This country is on a knife edge of unrest. Colin, I can't help but agree with you. I don't want to see it that way. But you never know. We are in a two-tier justice system, it seems to me. We have two-tier policing in this country. And I don't know how we can reverse it back. Let's go to your calls now. On the line, we've got Stuart in London. Hello, Stuart.
Good morning. I cannot believe what happened to that kid. If you're a police officer, you come along, you see a bloke lying on the floor, another one standing up. You say, hold on a minute, what's gone on here? And he said, it's racist. What do you mean it's racist? So you obviously attacked him then, or hit him. But then the kid's on the floor, in obvious distress, can't breathe, as you can see, saying, I've been stabbed. The first thing you do is check for injuries on the kid. The first thing you do. Give medical aid and call an ambulance. Not only didn't they do it, they handcuffed him and let the other guy walk off. And then the mother come back and took the knife later. You could not make up what is going on with our police force. And as for that charade of that court case, when you've got complete evidence, CCTV, that they're guilty, who's on the... I want to know who was on the jury.
Well, absolutely. I mean, what do you make of when you hear... excuse me, David Lammy, for example, say that he wants to get rid of jury trials, and now we have a jury that can't seem to come to a conclusion that we might think. I mean, we weren't in the courtroom, so we've got to state that. But it looks as though it's clear as day. A police officer trying to do their job at Manchester Airport, trying to detain two people that had an altercation, by the way, in the Starbucks coffee shop just beforehand. That's how the whole thing kicked off. The police were involved. The police seemingly attacked, but two defendants walked scot-free.
Well, Lammy comes out and says he wants to get rid of jury trials, it speeds things up. Apparently, according to all the statistics and people in the legal profession, it won't speed things up whatsoever. I think Lammy wants to get rid of jury trials for people that say horrible, hurty words on social media, won't be able to go to a Crown Court, but they'll all obviously always be found not guilty. I think that's what that situation is about. But what you said before, this is two-tier justice. You've got people sitting on the jury, and their own sort of people there in trouble. They will never find them guilty. It's destroying our whole justice system.
And do you think that the police, just finally, Stuart, do you think the police are spending too much time, for example, policing our tweets and not our streets?
Well, of course they are. And have you checked the statistics? How many people? We arrest more people than China, Russia and North Korea for tweets. And we lock up more people than all of them.
Well, I hadn't read that, but I'll take your word for it.
Have a look at the statistics.
I will. I will do just that. Stuart, thank you very much for your call. Next, we're going to Kevin in Basingstoke. Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
Hi, Kevin. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I put the phone down. I was eating my steak, so...
Oh, right. Well, a bit early, isn't it? It's 11:30. But, you know, horses for courses. Kevin, what would you like to say?
Yeah, you had somebody on earlier, and he said the vast majority of knife crime is committed by black men, and the vast majority of rape is committed by Afghans, I think he said. Well, the police don't gather that information or publicise it. So where did he get those facts from?
I think he was talking about, specifically when it was talking about black victims and black perpetrators of knife crime, I think that was specific to London, I believe, but we'll have to ask Mike again to come back on if he wants to clarify those comments.
Well, I mean, what about in Glasgow? I mean, they've got a very low percentage of black and brown people and not many Afghans. So who commits the vast majority of knife crime up there then?
Yeah, well, it's good. Well, it's a question.
Not because it's black, is it? People don't commit crime because they're black.
No.
They commit crime because of other reasons.
Well, absolutely. But the question is then, when a crime is committed, but when you have particular groups of people in particular parts of, say, London, in a borough of London, where there does appear to be people who are the victims of crime are black people. Young black men, as Mike was saying, that's the point Mike was saying, and the perpetrators of those crimes are also young black men. Isn't it right that we target those particular groups in order to ensure that we're looking after victims?
Yeah, but they don't commit the crime because they're black. They commit the crime maybe because of poverty.
Yeah.
And also, you said you was talking about asylum seekers saying that pretending they're a lot younger than they are, throwing their passports over.
Yes.
Where's the statistics that prove that they were throwing their passports over? How do we know they even had a passport? And also, there might be a few people that say they're younger than they are, but then that goes the other way around as well. The government is saying people are older than they are. And if you've been travelling across, Europe and been on the move for a year, you're going to look a bit older as well, aren't you?
Yeah, but there's a difference between, saying you're 14, 13, and then, you turn out to be 36, 37.
How many cases of that are there?
Well, the border force and the people that pick up these people tell us that there are people who, when they turn up, they're undocumented.
The border force know how old they are then?
Sorry?
The border force know how old they are, do they?
Well, they don't. That's the point.
How do they make out how old they are if they haven't got a passport? No identification.
Well, that's the point. They look older than I do. But they say to border force on arrival, they say that they're underage. That they're sick.
Border force say that, or one person said it.
Well, it's border force. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it.
Say that there's loads of people that say they're younger than they're not. No, border force don't. It's immigration that look into their people's background, not border force.
So let me ask you, Kevin, do you believe everyone that comes into the country illegally, you believe them as to what they say that they are?
The statistics where 70% of people that apply for asylum are granted asylum.
Well, I put it to you...
I put it... People around on these stations, they're illegal. They're not illegal. It's not illegal to claim asylum.
No, but it's illegal to turn up into the country if you've not applied. People can apply through normal means. But Kevin, I put it to you that the reason why there's 70% applications approved is because we have such a huge backlog in our country where there are people in the civil service that are just happy to rubber stamp people. Hold on, let me make the point that people are happy just to be rubber stamped to come into the country, where people are taking civil servants, people that are processing these applications, they're happy to take at face value what people say, whether they're claiming to be Christian one minute and then they revert back to Islam the next, where they claim to be bisexual. There's a case of someone who claimed to be bisexual.
For that one.
What's that?
I was waiting for that bisexual one. There was one proven case of that. There's not a proven case that loads of people do that.
But we're hearing about this time and time again, Kevin.
One person they found out was done that. They didn't have evidence of any more. They're just that one case.
I think you'll find there's many more. We've talked about it on the show before. Of lawyers in particular, helping people to claim to be gay, and you can stay.
But how many of them actually deceived the immigration and got asylum? Because they said that. There's a very, very tiny percentage of people that have used their, sexuality to get asylum. Very, very low.
But it's impossible. I think the point is it's impossible to verify, isn't it? And that's why people. But it's a loophole that people are using.
That's impossible.
Pardon?
It's not impossible, is it?
Well, I don't know how you prove it. I don't know. I'd rather not know how you prove it at 11:30.
How do they prove that was the reason for them to stay then?
You have to say it.
Well, they'd have to.
It works both ways.
Well, in order to prove that they've come into the country legally, they've gone out, they've gone to gay clubs in particular, they've targeted particular establishments, they've had photographs with people, and to prove or to use as evidence that they're of a particular sexuality. When it turns out
that's what happens.
Well,
did you get asylum?
That is what happens.
Asylum.
Kevin, thanks so much for calling. We're going to have to leave it there. But great to have your views. This is the home of common sense, but this is the home of free speech as well. Everybody is welcome. Have we got a call here? Is this Tony in Hertfordshire? I think we'll come to Tony after the break. Hold the line, Tony. Don't worry. All of your calls and texts coming in. The phones are ringing off the hook here. 0344 499 1000. Tony will be coming to you after this break. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you, whatever you're doing, whether you're still eating steak at this hour. Who knows what people get up to at this hour. This is Charlie Rowley, in for the wonderful Alex Phillips here on Talk, taking you all the way through to 1 o'clock this afternoon, taking all your texts and calls, all on the top stories that we've been talking about throughout the day. Peter Barnes, still in the studio, joins us all the way through to 1 o'clock. Thanks so much for giving up your time. Just on those calls that we've had on justice in the UK, whether it's asylum seekers, whether it's who present themselves as asylum seekers, turns out not to be the case. What are your thoughts?
Just to bring it back to the kind of the fake children being, saying you're not the age you are. In March 2026, 43% of people who claim to be under the age of 18 were found not to be under the age of 18 of asylum seekers. That's out of the number of people, it's 2,700 people. That is too many. One is one too many. I'd go back to the point.
2,700 too many.
Exactly. And for me, I'd go back to the point of there was one case where a person came into the country. He was wanted, having killed 2 other people in Europe. He was put in a school and he killed an 18-year-old guy who wanted to join the army. At what point do you have to say, we have therefore been too lax and we are now putting people at risk by doing this? Those are Home Office statistics for those who want to look them up. You're more than welcome to. That was just in March. That is 1 month. That's not of a year. That's 1 month. The reason people claim the under 18 aspect is that certain councils, such as Kent, have a statutory obligation to house and to support those who claim to be under the age of 18. And this was just from the initial check. We also have evidence from Border Force themselves that say they have filmed and photographed people throwing passports and documentation, and we've had people who have been arrested as smugglers saying they tell people to dump them in the channel when they get here because we don't bother to check. You're perfectly right, Charlie, that we have a problem of automatically saying yes when we should automatically say no, prove me wrong, in terms of who we let in and who we don't. I'm not against people coming here if they are genuinely fleeing persecution and brutality. However, we're not the World Health Service, we're not the world's kind of hotel, and it is not up to the British taxpayer to feed and house and clothe every person in the world who is having a very tough time. If we did that, we'd have a lot more people here than we already do.
Well, again, that's what Kemi Badenoch was writing about in the Times the other day. We're not the world's hotel.
No.
You know, we are the UK. People who want to come to the country should be taking part in all things in our society. They should adhere to our values, our cultures, our laws. This isn't somewhere where people can just come to stay and bring their own ways with them. It's about integrating. It's about being part of society. I mean, Kevin's, to be fair, I mean, he was bringing up a lot of statistics, and you can't argue sometimes with statistics. I mean, you can, depending on how you know, but his view was that, look, 70% of people that actually apply and even if they come to the country illegally through the small boat crossings, they do end up getting asylum. So they are processed and they are approved to come into the country. But do you agree with me, or do you think we're getting too uptight about it? You know, that the people are just being processed and being given the green light because we've got such a backlog and because we've got such a...
I'm surprised there's any ink left on the approved stamp. I think that's the bigger problem. That you're right. I think we rubber stamp people too easily. I mean, it was reported in the Home Office years ago from a leak from the Home Office that if people lie in their interviews, it's not held against their claim. You know, we have evidence after evidence of all the problems of the process. So yes, 70% of people might be approved, but if the system that is approving people is fundamentally flawed and is putting the public at risk, it doesn't matter whether it's 70% or not. It probably should be a lot lower than that.
Yeah, very good. I think a lot of people agree with that. Well, let's see what my guest now thinks of it all, taking us through some of the top stories. Political commentator Myron Senthalathon. Hello, Myron. Have I got that right?
Yeah, Myron. Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks.
Oh, perfect. I was more worried about the second name than the first, but there you go.
Nathan, it's quite a long name. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. Look, the top story we're talking about today, or the question I should start by saying, is how do we fix our broken justice system? Now, you would have seen in the news today that Zia Youssef, the shadow Home Secretary for Reform UK, has blasted our justice system. He says it is broken. And this is on the back of the Manchester attack that took place. So 2 people failing to be sent to prison by a jury. So this isn't a judge that's making the decisions. There's a jury that found after a second trial, it was inconclusive, that 2 men, I should say, who attacked police officers haven't received a sentence on the back of that. Also, we're talking about the case of Henry Novak, a young boy who was stabbed. He was the victim, but the perpetrator claimed that they were the victim of a racist attack, and the police sided with him, the perpetrator, not the real victim, Charlie Novak, and Charlie died of the injuries, Henry Novak, sorry, of the injuries that he sustained as he was stabbed. What do you make, just broadly, of the justice system in our UK today? Is it broken? Can we fix it?
I think there's a massive loss of trust in the justice system. Look, we recently had a case where a judge basically let off 2 young individuals for rape, and then now the Attorney General has to come in and investigate it. So we can't really trust judges. I think there is a kind of a politicisation of judges. And then on top of that, you've got jury trials, which everyone is scratching their heads thinking, I've seen the footage, I saw what happened, how has it come to this verdict? So now we're in a situation where we can't really trust judges, we can't really trust juries. There seems to be this 2-tier justice only seems to go one way. And it's a recipe for disaster for a society in general, because if the very foundation of law and order and justice is not there, if borders are not controlled, then almost what do you have left? I mean, it's a recipe for civil unrest, to be honest with you, and no one wants to see that. But when people lose hope and lose faith in the very apparatus of state, where do they go? What is the point in living in a civil society and playing by the rules? You are the mug, effectively, if you're playing by the rules. And that's effectively the culture that is being sort of distilled down to the ordinary person. I think that's what's the really worrying thing about all of this.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the question is, how can we reverse that? I mean, you've had, as I say, the shadow Home Secretary for Reform UK, Zia Youssef. He slammed the decision, as we were talking about that case in Manchester Airport. He said the decision is a shocking disgrace, adding it's a huge miscarriage of justice, and they only ever seem to go in one direction. How do we get to grips with our justice system? What do we say to judges? What do we say to our police officers? What have they got to do to get on top of this crime that seems to be going in the wrong direction, or one direction, as Zia puts it, and to get our country back on track?
So in the short term, you could come up with some kind of, I don't know, yet another quango which looks at judges and kind of reprimands them for these situations. But the rot of this whole scenario is very deep. It's ideological. And so I think we need to really tackle the whole situation. I mean, your previous guest, the police officer who came on, started speaking on about how officers are trained, how judges are trained, how a cartel, an echo chamber is developed amongst the establishment officials about what is right, what is morality. And the Henry Novak case really highlights the kind of the horror of where this is all going. Two-tier justice only goes in one direction. So I think we need a fundamental cultural change, and it starts from politicians, whether it's Reform UK or whoever, a right-wing government, actually laying out emphatically the principles of how British society should work, and highlighting the fact that anti-white racism is the most accepted and most pervasive form of racism in the country right now, and it feeds into almost every scenario. It climaxes in the Henry Novak case, but it's, you know, why can't we get data for certain crimes from the ONS? There's things like that. Why are we not discussing the rape epidemic that's coming from illegal migrants? Wherever you look, you know, the fear of criticising Islam, all of these things come from the point of anti-white racism, because we've assumed that effectively that Islam or whatever it is, Islam is a race. It's a religion. We're assuming that effectively that the white population is somehow the victim, is somehow the perpetrator, always. That's a default position. And I think this is also, you saw in this case with these two brothers, is that their solicitor was playing the race card. And what he's effectively doing is claiming supremacy through victimhood. And that's effectively a great tactic that a lot of people are using. It's the whole premise of the Black Lives Matter movement. Why are people taking the knee? And that says it all symbolically. You are basically submitting, we are supreme because we have claimed to be the victim. And effectively, so much of the establishment have kind of got onto the bandwagon of this anti-white racism and used it as a kind of point of moral virtue, signaling it. Now it's gone into free fall. And so that cultural ideological situation needs to be picked up, identified and rooted out of British society.
I think you're absolutely right. I took that particular lawyer to task earlier on in the show, and we always used to say when I was in government that, you know, if the lawyers come back and tell you that you can't do something or whatever, you're breaching somebody's human rights on the most pathetic of grounds, we would just say, well, get a better lawyer. You know, lawyers do have an opinion. They are there to represent their clients. It doesn't mean it, and it's just an interpretation of the law. But you're absolutely right. I think these lawyers went very far to present their clients as the real victims here, how it all started, how you know, that they hadn't been in trouble before, even though actually one of them had, and had been convicted because he had assaulted those two female police officers, which we saw in some of that footage there, which is absolutely harrowing. You talked about a right-wing government coming in that might be able to tackle it. We've currently got a centre-left government, if I'm being generous, where we have people still coming into the country illegally that are put up in asylum hotels. Now, Andy Burnham, we can't go into too much about the Makerfield by-election for selfish reasons, because I don't want to read out the whole list of candidates that we do talk about. But Andy Burnham, if he becomes the Prime Minister, one way or another, he said that he would rip up the asylum hotel contracts that cost too much money, but these are where people are housed. They do cost a lot of money. What are your thoughts about that particular idea? I mean, where do the people go if they're not in the hotels? But also the asylum and illegal immigration in this country more broadly.
So I mean, everyone says the same point, and it's absolutely right. If you close down the hotels, they get entrenched into HMOs, which is basically you could just wake up one morning and find next door to you a group of young men who are undocumented. So I don't want to see hotels closed for them to be put into HMOs. Unless you're deporting or at least detaining. Look, I don't mind if they even stay in hotels. It's not a great look at the taxpayer's expense. But if they were detained, I would at least be able to sleep at night knowing that women and girls can actually walk freely, knowing that they're securely detained in effectively a glorified prison. But if they're not detained, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter where you put them, this is a threat. And I think, look, Andy Burnham needs to realise, and the wider establishment needs to realise, that language matters. These are not asylum seekers. The moment you use the word asylum seeker, you're proposing that these individuals coming across have a case to be heard, that they need to be processed, that they need to be listened to and worked out where to put them. These are not asylum seekers. They're coming from the safe country of France. They're illegal migrants, therefore they're criminals. Therefore they should be detained at the very least and then deported.
But Myron, just as one of my callers pointed out, that over 70% of people that do come into the country, they are processed and they are given asylum status. They are, in that sense, they are proved to have a cause and a case to be in the country. What do you say to that?
Well, do you remember there was an article from Alison Pearson where she interviewed a whistleblower from the Home Office who basically was saying that they are encouraged, they're almost compelled to fast-track these individuals. If you come from Afghanistan, you're almost certainly going to get processed and approved, get your asylum claim approved. So it's a farce. The Home Office is not fit for purpose. It needs to be burnt down and the whole thing needs to be rebuilt. So when someone says we're processing the backlog, that makes me even more nervous because I wonder, they're just letting these people through one by one by one. Almost hardly anyone gets deported. I mean, I think it was something like 3-4% of illegal migrants coming across the channel get deported. So the idea of processing, it's a joke. The Home Office is not fit for purpose. They should be detained and deported. They are illegal immigrants, and that's why language matters. They are criminals.
Well, just to be absolutely clear to my viewers and listeners, you are a former Reform UK candidate, and you talk very strongly there about the deportation of people that are in this country who shouldn't be in this country because they're here illegally. What is Reform UK's position on deportations, do you know? Because earlier in the week we had Robert Jenrick, who said nationals would not be removed just because they live in social housing, but also if they were not working or earning enough. Now, Shadow Home Secretary Zia Youssef snapped back, I think I can use that term because it was quite public on X, to say that Robert Jenrick, the answer that he gave was not reform policy, and the party would look to remove foreign nationals living in social housing at taxpayer expense. Just what is your take on what Reform UK's policy is, but more broadly, what's going on between the Shadow Chancellor and the Shadow Home Secretary?
Well, yeah, I think as far as reform policy goes, is the principle behind it is no foreign national should have access to welfare or social housing from the state, and then that's the British state exists for the British citizen, and I think that's the fundamental principle. So I think Zia Youssef was correcting the record. Look, the reason why I think he stepped in was that tweet it was being retweeted. Had got I think possibly millions of views. You might have to correct me on that, but it went pretty far, and I think there was attraction building, and so as a result of that, I think Zia Youssef felt the need to step in and correct the record. So, and he is the authority on this policy, being the Home Affairs spokesman.
But it doesn't look good, doesn't it? I mean, you've got your Shadow Home Secretary effectively just criticising publicly the Shadow Chancellor. It could have been handled in a much more politically savvy way, couldn't it? Zia Youssef could have come out to say, what Robert meant is not only are we going to consider people that are in social housing for deportation, there might be, in the minority of cases, reasons why they should stay, but the policy is this. He could have done it slightly more kinder to his fellow colleague, couldn't he?
Yeah, look, I think Reform has got a number of different characters with a number of different sort of temperaments and personalities. You've got someone like Danny Kruger, very kind of gentlemanly, softly spoken. That he has that demeanour. And Zia Youssef is very tenacious. He's ferocious. And you know what? I want a future Home Secretary to be tenacious, to be almost aggressive, on the ball. And I think that's a good thing for someone going into the Home Office, which I've already pointed out, is so inept. It's so not fit for purpose. And I think Z Yusuf, he just has this tenacity, and that's just the way he handles himself. That's the way he deals with politics. Some people don't like it. Some people might get offended and put off by it. I personally think it's a kind of a necessary thing for a future Home Secretary to have, to be honest.
Well, there you go, Myron. Thank you so much for your time, political commentator and former Reform UK candidate. Let me know what you think about that. 0344 499 1000. We'll be taking all your calls and texts after this break. This is Talk.
Brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing. It is where the nation can and will come to talk. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, weekdays from 6 a.m.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. It's Charlie Rowley sitting in for Alex Phillips here on Talk, just still the other side of 12 o'clock, so we're still in the morning. And what a morning it's been so far. We've had loads of calls, loads of texts, loads of opinion on the topics that we've been talking about, asking the main question, is our justice system broken in the UK? A lot of you are of the view that it is. How can we fix it? Well, that's the conversation we're having today. Get in touch, 0344 499 1000. Text the word TALK to 87222 or send a message on X at talkTV, followed by your message. Now, we've had quite the morning so far talking about crime and justice. It's been a little bit heavy, maybe, for a Saturday morning. But here's something that if you're in the garden, if you finish your steak, that someone was Kevin, our caller Kevin, was enjoying a steak at 11:30 in the morning. You might be enjoying something a little bit stronger, who knows? You might be on your way to the Emirates Stadium later on. You might be going to the pubs to try and get in to watch Arsenal beat Paris Saint-Germain this afternoon in the Champions League final. That's certainly what I'm hoping for, because you could be a big football fan. That's something you could be doing this afternoon. And if you are a big football fan, have we got a competition for you? This is about the World Cup, and it is the FIFA World Cup 2026 is almost here, and thanks to Adidas, the tournament's official match ball supplier, our friends at TalkSport are giving you the chance to be there. Adidas is sending you and a friend to Dallas to see England versus Croatia live on June 17th. With return flights, accommodation, spending money, tickets, and your very own Adidas official match ball Trianda. Be at England's first game in the FIFA World Cup at one of the world's best stadiums. Ready to get that winning feeling? Here's how to enter.
Get ready for that winning feeling. For your chance to win, head to talksportwin.com or text TALK to 83338. Texts and online entries cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 1st of June 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. See full terms and conditions at talksport.com/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. Full T's and C's at win.talk.tv.
Well, a very good luck with that. It was almost as if I was reading from a script.
Yeah.
Nobody noticed.
No one noticed.
Did you like that?
It was very well done.
Thank you very much.
Yes, it was very well done.
I could be the official voiceover for the world, couldn't I? Do you think so, team? At the back?
Oh, can you not do the
Absolutely.
inner world? Can you do like the cinema voice? That'd be very funny.
It's called. I never knew when you have these big voices. It's called the voice of God.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I always thought, what on earth are you talking about? What on earth are you talking about? The voice of God.
Yeah.
There we go. Anyway, good luck with that World Cup competition. I know lots of you will be entering. We'll take a call now before we go to the break. We've got Michael in Birmingham.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Michael. What would you like to say?
Well, I'm pivoting a bit. I could be a Home Office whistleblower because I've worked in processing asylum applications. I don't anymore. And when I was there, the rules were so lax. You didn't have to corroborate anything. So people could say anything and get through uncorroborated. It was part of the guidance. If people are found to be lying, that doesn't disqualify their claim. Now, that's just two. And it was completely shambolic. And by the way, the scrutiny if you're turning down an application, but if you let one through, no one bothers about it. So I actually called... Carry on, sorry.
No, I was just going to ask you your experience then of being there or knowing the process and knowing the system. What kinds of things would people maybe say or claim that they are when it turns out that they've turned out to lie?
Age, everything you're hearing in the media, age, grounds for persecution, sexuality, completely and utterly uncorroborated. No backup evidence whatsoever.
Okay.
And the mindset of the that works there is exactly what you might fear that it actually is. Let's just say you wouldn't want them on a jury if you were looking for a right verdict.
Well, we might not have many juries if David Lammy sort of gets his way. I think some of them to be scrapped.
I could go down that route as well, but what I was going to talk about is far more serious. I mean, my sympathy to Henry, is it Henry Novak?
Henry Novak,
I hadn't heard about that case until this week. But I called this very station at least a year, 18 months ago, as a Birmingham resident and as a white guy living in Birmingham, saying that I feared, with the way policing is, that I could be walking down the street in Birmingham, be attacked by a minority, maybe killed, and I'd be blamed. And I called this station to say that. And what happened to poor Henry kind of like completely reinforces that. I don't feel safe in Birmingham. I'm going to leave Birmingham because this, I mean, you've heard about what that lunatic police commissioner, who's absolutely useless, said, I've got no confidence at all in the police, no confidence at all in the justice system, and actually, apart from you good guys, limited confidence in the media to report it the right way.
Well, thank you very much for that, first of all. But I'm sorry to hear that you feel as though that you now have to leave Birmingham. I know Birmingham has had its issues with policing, and it's certainly its chief constable has been accused of several claims of two-tier justice in this country. But how do you get to a point where you feel actually you've got to leave?
Well, because it just doesn't feel safe. Exactly the case that happened to the young lad there in Southampton, I feel could happen to, any white person in Brum. I really do. And we've got activist politicians, activist councillors. You look at what happens in the parks. Anything could happen and it'd be turned on you.
Wow. Well, strong stuff there, Michael. Thank you so much for your call. That was Michael in Birmingham that feels as though he has to leave because of two-tier justice in this country. Let us know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Is our justice system broke in this country? Can we fix it? I'm Charlie Rowley. This is the home of common sense, taking all your views, calls, messages just after this break. As I say, it's the home of common sense. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good afternoon to you now as we tick over to 12. It's Charlie Rowley here in for Alex Phillips, taking you all the way through to 1 p.m. We've had a great morning so far, haven't we, Peter?
Yes, we have. It's been very interesting. It's been a little intense, but rightly so, I think.
We've got some hard-hitting topics this morning, which is making us ask now the question, is Britain, our justice system, is it broken? Do we have two-tier policing in this country? Can we fix it? That's the question that we're asking people, and I tell you, the phone switches have lit up here.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. These kind of issues, I think, rightly get people very riled up.
It's like a disco in front of me. 0344 499 1000. That's the number to call or send a voice note. Text the word talk to 87222 with your message, or send us a message on X, just at talkTV. Speaking of discos, now, I don't know how this is related, but I'm sure we'll make it work somehow. I read out that cup competition a second ago, the World Cup competition, and we were talking about the voice of God. I thought I did it quite well, folks. Not going to lie. I thought I presented that in a way in which the public would expect, the great British people and the public would expect me to read out that competition.
Did you do it incorrectly?
Well, no, I read it. I
thought it was fine.
I read it word for word. I thought it was mildly entertaining. I entertained myself.
And that's all that matters.
I usually do. But feedback from the gallery, we were talking about the voice of God. Now, I'm told the voice of God, this is the voice that you might hear on shows like The X Factor or Britain's Got Talent, and they say, tonight, coming up, or whatever.
In a world.
Whatever.
Moving.
Exactly. Is it you?
No, it's not. It's the one line I can do is in a world.
Oh, very good.
Everyone always knows the voice of God is either Attenborough or Morgan Freeman.
Well, yes. I mean, but the voice of God that did do the X Factor, because he does it for all of our.
He does, yes. Yeah.
He's been on, I think, some of these shows at some point. I
think so, yeah. I have actually met him.
Well,
yes, I have actually met him. Everybody always gets him to say things as a voicemail thing.
Well, there
must be infuriating, I think.
Yes. It's a bit like the person that used to do "What's the time?" on the. You could call up and what's the. Yes. But anyway, I mean, that was the voice of God. The hand of God was something that a lot of football fans will know about. Particular World Cup, Maradona.
Yes.
Stole it from England basically with his handball. But anyway, the voice of God is supposed to be this authoritative, dramatic voice to get people engaged. I thought I did rather well on the World Cup competition there. Dave in the gallery here said that it wasn't macho enough. I need to be a bit more butch. Can you believe that?
No comment. On the advice of counsel, no comment. Butch is not something I'm often associated with, so I'm not really quite sure if I can help in the situation.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I think, I might not turn up tomorrow. If that's the kind of response I get from the gallery. But luckily, I will come back tomorrow because the lovely listeners are getting in touch no end with all the love and support. So thank you for spending time with us this morning into this afternoon. We talked about crime and criminal justice in this country. We're now going to turn our attention to what's happening across the pond. I'm delighted now to be joined by Steve Gill, former White House official who served under the Bush and Clinton administration. Steve, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Hi guys, good to be with you.
Great to have your company. Look, we in the UK thought that this attack, this war in Iran wouldn't last particularly long. We got our knickers in a twist slightly. The government, the Prime Minister said he wasn't going to lend any support to it. My personal view was right from the start that we should have. That's the view of Sir Tony Blair that's intervened in UK politics again this week. We should have been more open to supporting the US. We should have allowed them to use our RAF bases to refuel their jets to go on and attack Iran, a brutal regime that turns its guns on its own people, that funds the proxies, the Houthis, the Hezbollahs, the Hamases of this world that want to do us all harm, by the way. I thought it was the right thing to do. The Prime Minister disagreed and said it's not our war to fight. But we're now in a situation where the Strait of Hormuz is still not open, where energy bills in the UK are going up, not just here in the UK, but obviously gas prices, I imagine, too, in the US. What's your take on Donald Trump's intervention in Iran? Is it going to come to an end anytime soon? Is he going to do a deal with Iran? Does he want to do a deal with Iran? So many questions, and you're the man to answer them.
I think he definitely wants to do a deal, and I think. Guys, you can be too successful in war. And I think that's part of what happened here. I mean, their Navy is at the bottom of the sea. Their Air Force has been eradicated. I mean, the U.S. has free flying zone over the entire country. And you killed 400, 500 of their top leaders. So who do you negotiate with? And I think that's been the problem for the last 4 to 6 weeks. You know, the people that are showing up to say, yeah, we'll do a deal with you. Here's the terms, don't have the ability to implement it back home when the Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, doesn't want to get a deal. I mean, these are people who believe if they die as a martyr, they somehow win. So they don't have a real desire to end things. And now we're seeing finally some of the views, as they've been claiming, oh, the Iranian people support us 100%. Even the opposition party is now for us. Well, now we're seeing, as they turned off the internet, what people within Iran, I mean, they were marching in the streets, being killed by the tens of thousands, and still trying to press against the regime. And yet the leadership there doesn't care about their people. They don't care about the future. I think President Trump cares more about their future than their leadership does, because he has not bombed the oil drilling facilities, the oil storage facilities, the things that could set them back a decade from being able to rebuild and move forward, because he doesn't want to destroy things for the Iranian people. Unfortunately, the leadership that is blocking the implementation of any deal doesn't really care about their people. So I think the challenge has been, every time he comes out and says, yeah, we've reached a deal, it's like he's reached a deal with somebody, but they don't really have any power.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, look, the Iranian Navy and Air Force has all been depleted. As you said, it's at the bottom of the ocean. But, it is that strip of ocean, the Strait of Hormuz, that Iran does seem to have a bit of control over. It's blocking vessels coming in to export oil and gas that need to be transported right across the globe, effectively. So they've got a bit of control. I mean, do you really think that Donald Trump went into this knowing the full implications? Did he think that this was just going to be another Venezuela situation that could be a quick in and out job? Because the goalposts keep changing. I think he said at the start that it was for the Iranian people to then effectively rise up after a US intervention, for the Iranian people to then claim back their territory, to claim back their government against this tyrannical regime, a regime that is still in post. Has this not just proven more difficult for Donald Trump than he first imagined?
We have not changed the regime. We have changed the people in charge of the regime because, again, of the deaths of their top leaders, including the Ayatollah and then the Ayatollah's son. But again, the challenge is that the threat to the Strait of Hormuz is really what's blocking it at this point. They don't have the long-range ballistic missiles that they were lying about when they said they only have a 2,000-kilometer range, and they had a 4,000-kilometer range. They were much further along and now have admitted that they are further along in their enriched uranium, the 440 kilograms at 60% that could move to 90%. And keep in mind that the 60% uranium could be moved to nuclear weapons capability very easily, but even the 60% is enough for a dirty bomb. And again, imagine a dirty bomb blowing up in Piccadilly Square or Piccadilly Circus, and you've got a serious economic crisis worldwide, or in Times Square in the U.S. So what they really have in the Strait of Hormuz is what they've had for a long time, which is the threat. And President Trump wants to remove that. I think the desires from the beginning have not changed in terms of the moving goalpost. Eradicate their development of nuclear weapons, take back whatever they've enriched. Second, stop their economy from being able to fund the terrorist groups, the Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Hamas groups. Their economy has been eradicated to the point they can't really fund those, and we don't want to give them, their frozen assets or other resources where they're going to go back to writing checks to those who are creating problems in the Middle East. So I think that the big win, frankly, that's not getting as much attention is you look at the coalition that President Trump has developed, where the Emirates, the other Gulf states are aligned against Iran, are actually launching military action against Iran, something that would have been unforeseeable, 2 months ago. So I think in the long term, you have a new shift of the Middle East that will actually have a longer term impact when this ends, and I do think it is going to end. They're literally clinging because of their economy by their fingernails, and I think we're going to have to go back to a little bit more kinetic military action to again drive the point home. But I think we're probably closer because of how desperate the Iranians are, those that do have some sense of wanting to see a future for themselves and their country, rather than the IRGC who see martyrdom as their path to paradise.
Well, a shift in relationship with the Middle East is for the better, it seems, between Donald Trump and the leadership of the UEA, for example, but a shift in the relationship for the worse between the UK and the US may be apparent. Just a story that has been brought to my attention only last night. The US War Secretary Pete Hegseth said that allies guilty of freeloading will be penalised, and that the UK's special relationship alliance with the United States is meaningless unless it matches American military capabilities. In a blunt speech in Singapore this morning, whether that's this morning in Singapore time or yesterday, or we're not quite sure, someone will clarify, but Hegseth set out a strategic contract for US allies under which model allies who comply with American demands, will be rewarded with arms sales and access to intelligence. At the same time, those judged to be guilty of freeloading will be penalised. So the US Secretary there, War Secretary Pete Hegseth, saying essentially that the UK hasn't stumped up its support enough. It's been freeloading off the back of the US defence system, and we've been relying far too much on the US to defend us. We've not been there to defend ourselves, either through spending through NATO or spending on our own defences. We've relied on the US far too long. We're a freeloader. That relationship is now going to change. Do you see that as a prospect? Is the special relationship between the UK and the US under threat?
I think the military relationship between the U.S. and NATO definitely is going to change. And I think this is nothing new. President Trump has had problems with the fact that the U.S. has been paying more than our share of NATO defense. He keeps saying, we got this beautiful ocean between us and the dangers to Europe. Why are European nations not paying more of that share? And, his first administration, he was pushing to move from a 2.5% to a 5% of GDP contribution from NATO nations. The UK and others have stepped up, but many of the nations in NATO still have not and weren't paying their 2.5%. So I think his frustration and desire to change that relationship is nothing new. I think the special relationship in terms of the UK, the people of England and the United States is going to survive a lot of this. But I think that you're going to see a shift in U.S. funding, U.S. military involvement, and you're already going to see, I think, some troops being moved from some of the countries, France and Germany and others, to countries that do seem to be more aligned with, stepping up. And I think that's going to be moving, players on a chessboard, not necessarily evacuating Europe. And keep in mind, again, the relationship with the UK is tenuous, not only because of the NATO relationship, but you had the Labour government, Keir Starmer's team, sending people to campaign against him in the last election. That's not the way to make friends and influence people in the Trump administration. He has a long here. You campaign against Donald Trump and you expect him to embrace you. And yet he had great respect for the Queen. He has great respect for King Charles. King Charles probably pulled off the coup when Trump was there, and he had the British marching band play the YMCA theme song while marching in front of Trump. That's a guy who gets Trump.
Absolutely. Oh, and thank God for our King Charles there repairing that special relationship. Well, hoping that it endures. Steve, I hope you and I can have a special relationship going forward. I hope you can come on again and we can keep talking soon. Thank you so much for your time. We've got to leave it there. Steve Gill there, former White House official who served under the Bush and Clinton administrations, talking about all things going on in the US at the minute that does impact on us back home. This is Talk. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Send us a text, 87222. We'll be getting through all your calls and texts after this break. This is the home of common sense. This is Charlie Rowley in for Alex Phillips. This is Talk.
This is Total Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley.
Brand new for 2026. It's going to be the only way to start your day. It's the home of common sense. It's where the nation can come to speak about the day's news. It's the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. You know who you are. You get up, you graft, you work hard. I'm here for you. We want to hear your side. Promise you one thing. It is where the nation can and will come to talk. The Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, weekdays from 6 a.m.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good afternoon to you all. Thank you for joining me. This is Charlie Rowley in for Alex Phillips from 10 a.m. all the way through to 1 o'clock. We've got so many texts coming in on the topics that we've been talking about. Let's start here. Morning, Charlie and Peter. Peter Barnes still joins me now.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time today, Peter. I can't believe the lawyer for the two Manchester Airport brothers when he says they've never been in trouble before. The way one of them was throwing punches around would give Tyson Fury a run for his money. Well, you're absolutely right. Unbelievable they're not pursuing a third trial. Well, that's the view of the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester, Stephen Watson, if I've got his name correct. He's up in arms about it just as much as everybody else because, you know, you've got clear CCTV footage, I think, of two thugs attacking police officers. I can't understand why they've not been concluded, or it's been concluded that they should go to jail. But the CPS have decided a third trial would be too costly and ineffective.
Yeah, it's preposterous. It's infuriating, and I understand why the chief of police there is also actually up in arms. This is his officers that have been let down by the CPS not pursuing a third prosecution. I find it interesting that Reform UK have not also come out and said they were going to pursue a private prosecution. They were very happy in October 2024 to say that they were going to do this, and they are well within their rights to actually push this further. Now, whether the CPS would try to take it over and then kill it off, it's all very possible. But one looked like a press release. Now they've got a little quiet. It's got a bit more complicated. But yeah, I again, this story, I sad to say, it just doesn't surprise me that this is where we are with the state of the judicial system and the state of the police across so many stories over the last week and a half now. We just see the kind of the two-tier is utterly undeniable. Utterly undeniable.
Well, a couple of people agree with you here. This is Maggie. Morning, Charlie. Although it's now afternoon. Though she did send this over an hour ago, so apologise, Maggie. It's taken so long to come around to you. Morning, Charlie. With that sham of a trial, I feel we have witnessed. It's a lighter version of an O.J. Simpson trial. Thank you very much for that, Maggie. Suze also says, spelled S-O-O-S. So very modern. Hi, Suze. I've watched the footage of those two Manchester thugs. They may not have a criminal record to this point, but that was not their first rodeo. I would put money on the demographic of that jury. Well, I'd hate to speculate, but I think one of them did actually have a criminal conviction because he was convicted of attacking the two female police officers a year before. So thank God for that. But, you know, why they can't convict them of attacking this third police officer, absolutely no idea. Sean Cooper, this is on migrant hotels. The left think we are angry about the use of hotels for housing illegal immigrants. They don't get that we are angry about housing illegal immigrants in the UK, full stop. They just don't get it, and it will be their undoing. Sean from Bridlington there. Well, Sean, you're absolutely right, and I think this is why it's caused the intervention of Sir Tony Blair, former Labour Prime Minister, three-time winning Prime Minister for the Labour Party, saying, actually, look, you've got to get tougher on immigration, you've got to cut welfare, you've got to increase inward investment into the country, you've got to cut taxes if you want that growth. If this Labour Party, if this Labour government are going to be any kind of success and turn their fortunes around to get on side with the general public, these are the kinds of things you've got to do. Keep all those calls and texts coming in. We'd love to hear from you. And we've got a call right now. Tracy from Staffordshire. Hi, Tracy.
Hello, Charlie. Can I say your voice is like a little ray of sunshine?
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you,
It always makes me smile. Now,
I'll send the fiver in the post. Thank you.
This is sort of just something that's working through in my head. I actually don't believe that Keir Starmer or Andy Burnham or anybody else are sort of like evil or anything like that. I think Keir Starmer is probably, well, I hope he is. Obviously, I don't know. Horrified, obviously, what happened to Henry Novak. Okay, Okay. The problem is that people like Keir Starmer and people like Andy Burnham cannot, because in their head, they are nice people. You know, we care for refugees, we care for people and whatever. They can't actually see that what they're actually doing and the policies they're actually pursuing are actually causing serious problems to the structure of this country and the indigenous population. So Andy Burnham and Keir Starmer would look at me and think I'm evil and I'm scum, yeah? And that's fine. And the reason they can't and the reason that they won't address it is because of cognitive dissonance. If they actually looked and actually went, actually, we shouldn't be able to do this to people, their whole worldview would fall down. Because they won't actually respond to what I believe is the majority of these people want, which is a sensible asylum policy for people that are genuinely in need. What will actually happen is you will get a shift, you will get a rise of ethno-nationalism, you'll be starting to get a huge backlash from, and it will grow, and they will then obviously react, saying, everybody's being terrible, whatever. And ethno-nationalism scares me stupid, because you can look at this and see exactly the same happened in Germany in the 1930s, and it is because people do not address what people think because of their cognitive dissonance. It worries me. It really, really worries me.
No, Tracy, I think you're absolutely right, and it will worry an awful lot of people as well. I just want to break that down a little bit, if I may. So first of all, the point is that you think that there is a bias, obviously, within the government, within the Labour movement, within the Prime Minister, whether it's Andy Burnham, who's obviously running for the Labour leadership, whether it's the far left wing of the Labour Party, there is a bias towards whether it's whatever the minority is, whatever the campaign cause. So their view when it comes to things like policing, for example, when we've heard about that awful case of Henry Novak, who was stabbed, who was the victim in this case, but was stabbed by someone who claimed that they were the victim of a racist attack or hate crime or whatever. The police believed the person who appeared as the ethnic minority in that case, rather than Charlie Novak, that just happened to be a white teenage boy who had been stabbed and was actually bleeding. But so this bias towards minority groupthink, the campaign cause, you think that that's infiltrated the mindset of the Prime Minister?
I actually think that they have that it's good and it's the right thing to do, but they've just allowed it to go too far, and they can't actually And at some point in the root of their soul that they can't acknowledge, they know it's gone too far, but they can't send it back the other way because they can't honestly, and it's a difficult thing to do, and we all do it. You can't honestly look at yourself and go, oh, Shine, I've really got that wrong. It takes somebody of incredible moral courage to do it.
Is this not just because Keir Starmer doesn't really know what he stands for? So on the one hand, he'll say, look, if you dare protest about a particular crime that's taken place, and I'm thinking of Southport here, where there were riots on the back of that case, whatever the ins and outs of it, people are entitled to protest. But because there seemed to be a protest in the round about migration, for example, the Prime Minister was very keen from the steps of his briefing room in number 10 Downing Street to say that you could be deemed far right, or there's a far right bandwagon that people would go on. But then he'd give a speech to say that we're turning into, on the other hand, an island of strangers, obviously, which was lifted from. So he's used these two opposite phrases to try and court the nation, or to try and work out what it is that we are, or how society feels. But he doesn't really get it, does he? That's why we're seeing so many mistakes. And, the rot starts from the top.
It does. And the thing is, I don't actually think that the so-called left, always portray themselves as being kind and nice. But actually, they seem to have learned that bullying people seems to work better than on the ballot box. So it's easier to take a pop at reform instead of what I would like, which if you think you are so much better than the right, the Tories are exactly the same because they've ignored the electorate as well, so they're not getting off in my world. If you think your worldview is so much better than mine, then explain it to me. They can't.
Tracy, thank you so much for that. Tracy from Staffordshire. And can I just say, your voice is equally as therapeutic on a Saturday morning. So you can return that £5. I'll need it later on at the Arsenal. Going to Yasmin in Manchester. Hello, Yasmin.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Yasmin.
It's a brilliant show, darling.
Thank you very much.
I just want to say a couple of things.
Sure.
One about the Manchester thing. How would anybody in Britain really think that their family are connected to the police abroad? So how would we think our justice system would ever apply the same rigorous situation to them? Because they're connected to the police force. All the families connected to the police force abroad. So in Britain, they're never going to convict them of anything. The other thing is, with that young boy that died, Henry, it was so sad. I burst out crying when I saw him in the lift, and you could tell he was smart. He looked intelligent, he was young. What people have got to realise in this country, and this is genuinely what I believe, is that the actual police force is against white males in our country. And it's been shown now. We know it. We've seen it with our own eyes. When a young man's on the floor, it doesn't matter who you are, that man's struggling. And why put him in handcuffs? It's horrendous. The second thing you were talking about earlier was about people coming over to this country, saying they're gay, pretending they're gay, and then getting a passport and everything. Well, in my own family, one of my relatives married somebody from another country, and he got a passport. They divorced, and she got quite a lot of money for it. Do you understand? It happens all the time, That's why you've got in certain areas in this country, like a village from Pakistan moving into an area in this country. Because it's set up that way. What you don't realise, though, is that we need to be, and I'm going to say it, my grandparents were born here. One of them was born abroad and came over in the 1940s. And I am mixed blood, 3/4 Irish, 1/4 Persian, whatever. But the thing is, what you've got to realise is it's set up this way. Abroad, Davos, they do not want Britain all white, because an all-white nation, or nearly all-white nation, is far hostile to be taken over. So what they're doing is insidiously sending people boats and boats and boats. What this government should be is on a war footing with the immigrants, and this is what I mean.
Well, I think
when they come in, they should literally get ID, photo ID, and biometrics, fingerprints, whatever, to find out where they've come from originally and send them back. But they won't do that because the Commonwealth, France and everything, when we came out of Brexit, they decided, right, we're sending everybody over. And I'm telling you, I believe what Enoch Powell says, and it's happening now. There's going to be rivers of blood on our street because we are being degraded from everybody coming in, and literally they are making the white man, and women as well, but the white man, they're making him the problem and not sorting out the real problem. And Starmer knows it, and they're all being run off Davos, and they're all being run by the Podesta, John Podesta rules.
Yes. Well, I know. Yes, I know the sentiment. I know the sentiment where you're going with that. And well, you know, the Prime Minister did say that he felt more comfortable in Davos than you did in Westminster. But how far to an extent that they're controlling us, I'm not entirely sure, but very strong stuff there, Yasmin. I mean, the point about the EU, you're absolutely right. You know, people say that having voted, or have the country voted Brexit, that's been the problem. That's why we've not been able to stop the wave of migration, legal migration that's coming into this country. I don't believe that for a second. And why on earth would you want to rejoin an organisation that is not prepared to stop those, these people crossing over, people coming from France, they're coming across all over Europe, and they're not prepared to stop them. I don't know why. Why on earth, if they're not going to do that, why on earth do we want to rejoin anyway, if that's how they treat us? I think people need to look at the other side a lot more. And it's not just a one-way street when it comes to the relationship with the EU. It's not just voting for Brexit. We decided to up sticks. That's a democratic choice that we made, and we should stick to, because going back under worse terms where we have to pay more money, take more regulations and have less say, I think that's for the birds. Yasmin, thank you so much for your call there. After the break, we're continuing our conversation. How do we fix our broken justice system? Peter Barnes, you're leaving us.
I am, yes, I'm going to shoot you. I think you're in perfect hands, and I will report back to Alex, you did a fine job.
Well, thank you very much. Well, thank you for spending the time this morning.
Not a problem.
It's been a fun-packed show. We've covered some meaty topics.
Yes, so much has been covered.
And I'm sure as the week goes on, as Parliament comes back, politics will just get even more crazier. You'll be back here.
I will. I'm back here tomorrow morning with Mark Dolan at 8 o'clock.
Very good, very good. Yeah. We'll cross over. I'll be back in the
Yes, I can see you're back.
From 10 to 1. Thank you so much, Peter Barnes. Thank you. Keep those calls coming in, 0344 499 1000, or text the word talk to 87222. We'll be getting you on the voice box, if I can put it like that, if that makes any sense at all. We'll be reading all those calls and texts out after this break. This is Talk.
A triple decker of common across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, very good afternoon to you. It is Charlie Rowley sitting in for Alex Phillips here on Talk TV. Get your calls and texts coming in. We've had a fantastic 2.5 hours so far. Gosh, time flies when you're having fun. 0344 499 1000. We'll be taking all of those calls in just a matter of minutes. The question we're asking today: how do we fix our broken justice system? Whether it's our judiciary, our courts, or whether it's the policing, two-tier Britain is in full swing. That's the message that we're getting loud and clear so far from you lovely listeners. But let us know, can it be fixed? Do you think actually the criminal justice system is working perfectly well? Do you think that the police are actually doing a great job, that they were right, or the jury was right, if they can't find a conviction for these two men in Manchester, at Manchester Airport? Let us know, 0344 499 1000. Well, we've been talking about some of those top stories, particularly when it comes to our as I say, our criminal justice system, but we've also been doing a little bit of politics. It's a bit of bread and butter for me. which is easier to do than to say. But joining me now, I think, we've got Lord Clive Soley, who is a Labour peer, to talk all through what's happening within the Labour Party and some of the political stories of the day. Lord Soley, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to kick off, if I can, with Andy Burnham. Now, without going into the Makerfield by-election, which will spare me having to read out all the candidates' names, which I will save you, which I don't think anybody needs or wants. Right. Andy Burnham today has said that he would rip up the hotel asylum policy if he became Prime Minister, one way or another. Now, that seems to be something that the public agree with. They don't want to see people that come into this country illegally just house in hotels. But where would they go? Is Andy Burnham onto something that you think the public can get behind, or is this just something that might unravel and he'll need to do another U-turn like he did on saying he wanted to go into the EU?
Well, although it's much slower than anybody wants, the asylum system is slowly coming under control, and not before time, because I remember, must be about 4 years ago now, where immigration reached about between 800 and 900,000 people, close to 1 million. Fortunately, that is dramatically back now, because we couldn't have gone on like that. I think most of us accept that. So, and, you know, generally speaking, we are making progress, but it is not as fast as many people want. What Andy would do, I don't know, but there's not an awful lot more you can do to speed it up unless you rip up all our laws, and I hope nobody is suggesting that.
I mean, let's talk about immigration and asylum in this country more broadly. You've seen a lot of prime ministers, you've seen them come and go, for both the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, and you're now seeing the emergence of Reform UK. They're leading the number of opinion polls week in, week out, and the number one issue does seem to be in this country that people have a problem with just the fairness of it. They see that people come into the country illegally, they get put up in hotels, they get offered the benefits, they get dental and doctor's appointments over anyone else that seems to be on a waiting list, an ever-growing waiting list of trying to see a doctor or a dentist. So it's about fairness, in my view. How have we got to this situation where both the Tories getting kicked out the last election, this Labour government in just not even 2 years, and they're facing a leadership crisis? Why is it that Labour have not been able to get on top of the migration crisis? Is it just the fact that, too many left-wing people believe that, the people that come into the country, well, we take them at face value, we believe them no end, and actually it's just, people that might be on the right of politics, that they're all just far right and racists?
You've given an awful list of things there which could keep us going all day. So let's face it, I can't do. I think the main thing that would disturb people is actually the cost of living, but immigration is a big second. And that's why the numbers have got to be kept, being reduced, and that's vital. I think it is happening. The problem is it's not happening fast enough for many people. So I only heard a couple of your contributors, but they are still feeling that this is out of control. Not actually. It is coming under control. And when you said just now about the European Union and so on, I wasn't surprised when Britain voted to come out of the EU. But one of the things we did, and which isn't recognised, is we actually took away the position we had where the British provided the senior police officers for dealing with this throughout Europe. And we lost that. That was one of the things we lost. So when people say, oh, look, the French are not doing anything, before that, we could actually say, these people are illegal, stop it. But we lost that because we came out. So if, people wanted to come out, so you've got to accept they wanted to go out, you've got to just live with the consequences. And that's what we're doing at the moment. And really what we're trying to do now is create a new situation, hopefully more rational than the last one. Because we can't go on with the numbers as they were before.
The slight pushback to that FMA is that people would say, OK, if we've left the European Union, we've left some of these institutions where we were sharing information and data. But if the EU really wanted to, and if it's a case about security, and if it's a case about monitoring people that are crossing multiple borders to get to the UK, they're obviously coming to France at some point to get across to the UK. So they're coming through multiple EU countries within the EU as well. Surely they could have just extended that offer as part of the UK leaving the EU, just as we extended to holidaymakers, for example, not having to queue up at e-passports. Now, we said, look, we don't want to punish citizens. Anyone from the EU can still come to the UK. You don't have to go through any other passport queue. Your holidays will be protected. The EU decided that they were going to not do that to UK nationals. They were going to punish us effectively for trying to go on holiday and enter their country. Why couldn't the EU just be grown up about it and accept that the UK, as a big player, a big contributor, wants to leave, and therefore we could have had a much more harmonious exit?
Charlie, you're saying an awful lot there. The awful truth is, just remember that we negotiated us coming out of the European Union, and that negotiation was appallingly bad. And there's no making excuses for that. Literally, you may remember the picture of two British ministers at the time appearing in front of the group of European Union officials who all came with files and papers, and the two British guys sat there with nothing in front of them. And you thought, this is going to be a disaster. And it was. And frankly, Boris Johnson has to answer for this. It was an appalling way of doing it. There was a case for coming out. I understand that. But the way it was done was little sort of disastrous. And honestly, the other thing to bear in mind when you say this, remember what we're happening, and it's been predicted for ages, is that immigration is going on around the world. The United States has got the same problem of people crossing borders. It's not unique to Britain. It's not unique to Europe. And frankly, it will go on happening while we've got countries which are struggling, either because they've got brutal dictators like Iran. And this is what makes it so difficult, because if there are two groups of, I'm doing this very broadly now, but let me do that. Two groups of refugees, in a way, who claim refugees. There are those who are really coming because they want work and they want a stable society and so on, but who don't have much space really for leaving their own country. And there are those where they are. In Iran, right now, while we're speaking, they are hanging teenage children, boys and girls, after them every day. So, and I defy those people, some of whom might want to say, oh, send them all back, to interview any of those and send them back. But that doesn't alter the fact there's a large number are coming here, not because they're fleeing persecution, because they want a job. And they want a job in Britain because Britain is a nice, stable country, despite all the things you're saying about it's falling apart at the seams and there's no justice here and the world is awful. And, oh, for heaven's sake, I mean, I just want to say, we're living in one of the most stable countries in the world.
Well, just on, anecdotally on the EU picture of those two ministers that turned up with nothing, I mean, I would blame the special advisors at that time, of which I may or may not have been
you
one.
Were one.
I may or may not have been one. So we'll pause.
You were one.
It's all my fault. It's always all my fault. Don't worry.
Absolutely. Quite right too.
Very quickly. We've only got a minute left, I'm afraid, because I've run over time. But I do want to ask you about, because you were making the point to me that I think, things in this country are so broken. Tony Blair has made an intervention earlier this week where he was setting out where he thinks the direction of the country should be going. So it's not just me that might be thinking that we're going in the wrong direction. Just your views, if you would, briefly, about Tony Blair's intervention this week.
Yeah, you turned doom and gloom into an art form. I mean, it's not. There are problems now, and certainly the failure of the two big political parties, Labour and Tory, is a serious problem at the moment. You've gone. Have I lost you?
Sorry, you did briefly.
Briefly. Are you still there?
I'm still here. Sorry, I lost you very briefly there. Sorry.
Right. Okay. No, I'm saying, there's a problem. They're both major parties, because they've been in government recently and haven't solved all the problems, are in trouble. There's no ifs or buts about that. We know that. Tony Blair's analysis is pretty good. I don't think it's the whole story. And I do think Andy Burnham's response is a very interesting and constructive one. I don't think we ought to be doing the changing of party leaders, because the Tories tried that a number of times, and as you well know, it didn't work, and it rarely does, frankly. But no, it is true. I think you can make a criticism of the current Labour government, saying they came into government having not thought through some of the policies clearly enough, and that's what's happening now, where we've left it very late. I think we can do it, but it's late.
Well, there you are. You can do it. It might be late, but it still can be done. That's the view of Lord Clive Soley. Thank you so much, Labour Peer. Thank you for joining me. Let me know what you think about that. 0344 499 1000. We've got some voice notes in. Let's go to Mick.
Good morning, Charlie. Talking about the immigration issue and the thousands and thousands that pour into this country that we know nothing about, I've got a little bit of an analogy. A beehive, it's like a beehive inviting in Asian hornets, hoping that they're going to be friendly. Well, the Asian hornets will kill the hive and take it over. I rest my case. Have a great Sunday, guys. Oh, sorry, Saturday, and keep up the good work.
Don't wish away the weekend, Mick, but you can see me here Sunday if you like. 10 to 1, I'll be back in the hot seat tomorrow for Alex Phillips. That's a great analogy there. Kitty.
Hi, Charlie. Kitty from Kent. Lovely to see you having your own show. In answer to the question, is there any going back for Britain? There certainly is. We take the Green stance and get rid of all our prisons, but then we take the El Salvador stance and replace them with CCOT prisons. And once the people go in there, they're never coming out. And that's something I would like to see. No appeals, no releases, no parole, no nothing. We can chuck the judges in with them as well, because they seem to love these crims so much. Job done. Spit spot. Have a lovely day.
Job done, spit spot. There you are. That's from Kitty. Love that kind of lingo. Is Britain broken? Is our justice system broken? Let us know. 0344 499 1000. Still got a few minutes to get those calls and texts in. Kelvin, send a voice note.
Good afternoon, Charlie. You just said, can we fix Britain? Yeah, I think we can. We just need to get rid of all the idiots out of Parliament, all the Labour Party, and then all the left-wing idiots that welcome the migrants here and want them here, and all them sort of people. Get rid of all them. We can fix Britain. Till then, we are knackered. Bye.
Get rid of all the politicians, replace them with my lovely listeners on talkTV. That could be the answer. Let us know what you think. We've got the calls coming in thick and fast. Text the word talk 87222. This is the home of common sense. This is Charlie Rowley in for Alex Phillips. This is Talk.
They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
You know, you've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the streets.
This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good afternoon to you. This is Charlie Rowley in for Alex Phillips here on Talk. I've had a bit of a costume change for you viewers listening and watching on the YouTube because this is the part of the show where I'm delighted to welcome Arsenal podcaster Richard Butler, who is going to be telling us everything about what's happening in London today. Arsenal are in the Champions League final. You might have noticed, Richard, I'm an Arsenal fan myself.
Well, everyone's an Arsenal fan today, I'm sure.
Well, of course, the whole country should be behind Arsenal. We are an English team in the Champions League final, having won the Premier League after 22 years of wait. People know that might have listened to me once or twice before. I am a Gooner. Piers Morgan and I, I'm sure, have added so much support and help to the team over the last year. But it's been a great year for us. And do you think we can do it this afternoon?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, obviously PSG are going to be favourites, but we've got the best defence in Europe. And if we can defend as we have done most of the season, it's going to be difficult for them to break us down. Of course, we can score goals from set pieces. Why can't we do another 1-0? A scrappy 1-0 win will be fantastic tonight, wouldn't it? And there's no reason why we can't do it. We've done it so many times this season. We've had a lot of practice. And I think PSG have got all the pressure on them because they're expected to win. They're the holders. We've never won it before. And nobody really expects us to win, I don't think. So let's go out there and relax and, you know, and cause a shock. Why not? Yeah, I think we can do it, definitely.
You're absolutely right. And the reason why we're doing this little segment today is because in central London, I mean, it's going to be absolutely packed. I'm off to the Emirates Stadium after this. Managed to get a couple of tickets. So I'll be watching the match in the Emirates Stadium, where they should have some big screens there, hopefully, and taking the atmosphere of North London. But it really has been, I think, a celebration for the whole country, where people have got together. They've celebrated, as I say, 22 years since Arsenal won the Premier League. That has been a huge relief for many Arsenal fans. And you're right. Does that mean that the team and the players can just play freely? There seems to feel amongst Arsenal fans, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because you'll be talking to them all the time on your podcast. You know, does it matter if we don't win today because we've won a trophy, we've won the league, we are the best team in the UK, certainly in England. You know, does that really matter if we don't win today? I mean, it'd be nice, but, you know, we've won. We've won the Premier League, haven't we?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because obviously we've never won the Champions League before. It's a chance to make history tonight and become the first ever Arsenal team to do it. And I think that that's an opportunity that doesn't come around very often. It's been 20 years since we've got to a final. So it's not something that happens, you know, other teams seem to get to the Champions League final on a regular basis. We don't. Now we're there. I think it's one opportunity to win it. We don't know how long it might be till we get here again. Hopefully it'll be every year. But we don't know that at the moment, do we? So let's go out there tonight and win it. Because of course it matters. You know, it's the biggest trophy in club football, isn't it? It's the one thing missing, you know. Arsenal are a big club, but the one thing missing from our CV, if you like, is the Champions League. And we need to put that right. And tonight's an opportunity to do that. So it does matter. If we lose, yes, we won the Premier League. It's still been a great season. There'll still be the celebrations, of course, tomorrow anyway, whatever the result tonight. But wouldn't it be great to have that 2 trophies there on top of that bus through North London? That would be amazing, wouldn't it? I mean, it would be the greatest season in Arsenal's history, wouldn't it?
You're absolutely right. It is the trophy that eludes us, that Champions League. So to get our hands on it, to get our mitts on it this afternoon, I think you're absolutely right. It would be brilliant. Where are you watching it?
At the moment, I'm not 100% certain. Still making some plans. Everywhere's chaos, isn't it? Really, but it's wherever I watch it, it's going to be great, isn't it? So just looking forward to the game now, and yeah, a little bit nervous, obviously, because it's a Champions League final, but I'm fairly relaxed as well because I really do think we can do it, and I think it's going to send shockwaves through Europe because I don't think many people expect us to win today. And if we do, I think people will start to take notice now and, you know, understand what a great opportunity this is for us as a club as well.
You're absolutely right. And I think, look, you know, I didn't recognise or feel that there was so much hatred towards Arsenal as there has been, I think, over the last few months. But I think people forget that, you know, we were always finishing in the top 4, as we have done for, I think, the last about 20 years, bar one, I think. But of course, we had a whole stadium to pay off. You know, we had huge debts to pay. Arsene Wenger, still at the tail end of his career, was trying to manage players, coach them through where we didn't have the big stars because we couldn't afford them. But yet we were still qualifying for the Champions League. We were still in the top 4. That reign came to an end. You know, Uriah came in, and you know, maybe we should have given him a bit more time. Who knows? But we've ended up with Arteta that's done fantastically well. We've been second, 3 times. We are now top of the Premier League. We've obviously won. People don't recognise the struggle that I think Arsenal have had to go through because of the finances. And now we're at a point where, you know, we've paid off the stadium effectively. We've got good players. We've won the league. We could go on and win the Champions League tonight and attract even more players. We could be top of the league for a decade, couldn't we?
Well, I mean, it's an opportunity, isn't it? Obviously, with Pep leaving Man City, I think it's going to take them another year or two to rebuild and under a new manager. You look at the rest of the Premier League, is anybody else in a position to go on and dominate the next couple of 2 or 3 seasons? Probably not. Man United are on the way back up, but they're still maybe a year or 2 away. Arsenal, you know, we've been patient. We've had to wait a long time, but now we're there. There doesn't look to be a natural successor to us. You know, Liverpool have just sacked their manager today, so they've got to start again. And I think that really now, whether or not we win tonight or not isn't necessarily going to affect that. But we've got a great opportunity now, the next 2 or 3 years, to win back-to-back Premier League titles, which we've never done. So that would be another first for the club as well. But I don't want to think too far ahead. I just want to, you know, get this game out of the way today, hopefully get that trophy won, and then we can see what happens over the summer. Of course, we're going to spend more money. We're in it, like you said, we're in a much better financial position now, aren't we? We've had to, like you said, pay for the stadium. We went through some difficult times, but I suppose difficult times are relative, aren't they? You look at Tottenham, what they've been going through, what Chelsea are going through now. We haven't really gone through anything like that. So, you know, our difficult times have still been not too bad, I suppose. And now we obviously reaping the benefits of it. But yeah, I think there's an opportunity now for Arsenal to go on next 2 or 3 years and, you know, go on and chase what Man City done, win it 4 years in a row. Why can't we do that now? There's no natural successor to us, I don't see, in the Premier League. So let's go and do it. Let's win tonight first.
Let's win tonight first. You're absolutely right. And in the last half hour, some breaking news there that you just alluded to. Liverpool have sacked their head coach, Arne Slot. He wasn't getting on well with the players, I don't think. I think there was a bit of backlash in the dressing room, particularly against Salah, who seemed to fall out with him quite publicly as well. Richard, thank you so much for your